Come to Sam Ash for hundreds of exclusive holiday deals on music and sound gear from the most iconic brands. Save big on professional and starter guitars, drums, digital pianos, horns, violins, DJ, and electronic production equipment. Supercharge your home studio with deals on podcasting, streaming, and AV equipment like speakers, microphones, headphones, and acoustic treatment. Plus, with 36 months no interest financing on thousands of items, you can get the gear of your dreams right now. From our incredible selection and service to our lowest price guarantee for over 95 years, real musicians know you only go to Sam Ash.
Bruce Arians here with your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. During these difficult times, it's important that we all show we care about our community's health. You could spread COVID-19 without knowing it. Wear a mask, wash your hands, keep your distance from each other, stay strong, and go Bucs.
Realizing my potential has been what my career's been all about. Things that I've dreamed about have actually come true.
And the Patriots have won Super Bowl 36. Unbelievable.
Things have happened in my life as I kind of hoped they would happen. It's been, just a complete evolution. You know, how I just kept kind of fighting and clawing to continue to power forward. You just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you keep trying to make progress. So when I look at over 20 years, I look how far I've come. But there's not one step that I took where I realized, look how far I've come. But those series of steps that I put together, I go, wow, that's quite a journey.
You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another edition, your Thursday night edition, Bucs edition of the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blick, giving you something to think about here live on Bucs Report. And of course, the Landry Football Network. Big show tonight, but as we always do on this program, we started out just like this. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blick, giving you something to think about. On tonight's show, we will have former Bucs corner, Pat's corner, Mr. Ricky Reynolds on with us in just a couple minutes, breaking down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, talking about NCAA. Got some questions for him, some comments from Joe Montana, so we'll dive into that. We got a little bit of a change. 9:30, no guest, so we will be taking your phone calls. We'll take your phone calls all night long. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. At 10 o'clock, we will have Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Talk Show, which is, of course, on the Landry Football Network, giving us the Saints perspective, SEC perspective. Then TJ Pittenger, the Big Three roll-up, will be on at 10:30. A big story breaking out of FSU country in Tallahassee. So we'll get the latest on that. And then at 11:30, we will have Rick Ballou of XL 1010 radio station in Jacksonville, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars and, of course, the AFC South. So there you go. We've got a packed edition of the Sports Web, just waiting for Ricky Reynolds. But This program is brought to you by mycannabiscard.com. For all your medical marijuana needs, it's mycannabiscard.com. They're going to be able to find you people that are going to be able to get your evaluations and go through the medical procedures to get you what you need, and tell them Bucs Report and, of course, Peter Blake from the Sports Web sent you. So there you go. Absolutely not a great night if you're a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, as they lose to the Columbus Blue Jackets. What a difference a couple days makes, right? 3-1. The series is now tied at 1, the best of 5 series. So we'll see if the Lightning can come back. Of course, they got swept last year, so of course doing better. But it's never a good thing for them to have a loss, because there's a lot of Lightning fans right now just looking at this series and saying, oh no, not again. I'm right there with you on that. And then last check, the Tampa Bay Rays decided to score about 17 runs tonight. That's right. They're unloading once again on the Boston Red Sox when they unloaded on them last night. It is 17-5, the last check on that. So we got your baseball, we got your hockey out of the way. So without further ado, I tell you what, let's go ahead and get this guy on. I want to get his thoughts on a lot of things having to do with, of course, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers being a Bucs night. If you have any questions for Ricky Reynolds, definitely get on the phone lines. But we're going to talk to him, former Bucs corner, Pat's corner, sports analyst, Mr. Ricky Reynolds. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing?
Well, besides the Lightning loss, and I'm not sure if you're a hockey fan or not, did you by chance get an opportunity to watch that Lightning win in those 5 overtimes? Be honest now.
I did see glimpses of it. I usually don't watch a whole game there, but I'll watch some of it. I do root for the Lightning, and I keep my eye on them pretty closely, but I don't watch a whole game.
Yeah, and then they lost today 3-1 to the Columbus Blue Jackets. That's a best of 5 series. So now it's tied at 1. So we'll see how that works out. And the Tampa Bay Rays, red hot. I feel like it's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out there. 17-5 over the New England Patriots. That's what they did tonight. Absolutely crushing them, scoring runs at will. So you got baseball, you got hockey, but of course we're going to talk about football. Are you surprised that the NCAA has canceled some of their fall sports, namely the Big Ten and, of course, the Pac-12?
I'm really not surprised. Going into this, we knew that there was some uncertainty that if we were going to have football or not, just because there's still so much unknown about this pandemic at this time, and you have these young kids out here, and you have to worry about them and their health and what their futures lie if they were to get infected with this disease. And long-term health for these guys is something that you really have to look into and look at, because with the lawsuits and things of that nature that can go on later on down in the future, these guys the NCAA definitely has to be concerned about those issues.
I mean, that seems like it's the deal at this point. I mean, you have lawsuits, you have the liability of not only the kids playing football, but also the students that are on campus. Haven't even mentioned coaches or administrators. So it certainly seems like the NCAA hasn't had a plan. Do you feel like their plan is worse than what the NFL is at this point? Because it certainly seems like the NFL going forward, they're going to do everything they can, Ricky, to start on time on September 10th. And I'm not sure about the NCAA, especially the Big Ten, Pac-12. They've canceled. And now there's talk of the ACC, SEC possibly being in jeopardy. Do you feel like the plan overall for the NCAA hasn't been as good as the NFL?
Yes, I feel that the NCAA really doesn't have much of a plan. They actually have been pretty quiet during this whole series of events here. And I mean, you hear, you may hear things from certain teams, certain different organizations and things of that nature, some of the conferences, but the NCAA has been very quiet. They haven't said a lot. And, they're the ones you figure would lead the the whole thing in this, the whole country. I mean, you have, Division I, Division II, Division III, none of these guys really didn't know what to do. And you just kind of put it out there in their hands to make a decision on what each conference wants to do, what each team wants to do. And, the NCAA is, kind of taking a back seat to pretty much everything.
It really has. I don't know if I ever asked you this. I don't know if you have any kids. Do you have any kids?
Oh, yes. I have a few kids.
Okay, so if one of your kids played football, and I'm not sure if they do or not, but let's say they did, would you be okay? Because I asked you this question a couple weeks ago, if you would opt out or not. You said you would not opt out. Looking at it from that perspective of being a father, would you tell your kid not to play? Would you have him opt out of this situation, or would you tell your kid to take all the the safety protocols and let him play?
Well, I mean, we'll have to, educate ourselves on what the program is doing and, what the conference and how they're doing, everything to keep the kids healthy and safe. How are they testing? What are they doing to try to keep them from being infected and that sort of stuff? And then try to make a educated decision on what's best for him and, and your family as well. I mean, because, you don't want him to get something and bring it home to myself or, grandparents or anything like that. So it would really have to come down to, what the organization is going to do to help us decide on making that right decision.
And we're on with former Bucs corner, Pat's corner, Mr. Ricky Reynolds, sports analyst, and of course now joining us here on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about, which leads me to my next question. Do you feel like if college football is canceled with all those leagues, namely the SEC, ACC, because they make big-time money, but it is all assumed that they're going to play, but let's just say theoretically college football does cancel on a Saturday, would you expect the NFL to play their games on a Saturday, and would you have any problem with them doing that?
Yeah, I wouldn't have any problems with them playing on Saturdays at all. I'm assuming that they can definitely make an adjustment if that was the case, that they were able to play on Saturdays. I think that would be great. The only thing would be probably scheduling and trying to, make things kind of work, because you shorten out the weeks and that sort of stuff when you start mixing in, Thursday games, Saturday games, Sunday games, Monday night games, and the like. It makes it kind of tough on the players trying to adjust all those different timelines throughout the course of the year. But I wouldn't mind them playing on Saturday at all.
How tough would it be for football players to get used to playing on Saturdays? I get it. A lot of people say, well, they do that later on in the season, but now that would become normalcy. How difficult would it be for a football player to adjust to that type of schedule now, instead of playing on Sundays, just on Sundays, and possibly Mondays and Thursdays, now Saturdays?
I don't think it would be tough. The biggest thing would be, how much rest time do they get in between? Can they get their bodies ready to go? If they can play on a Thursday, they definitely can play on a Saturday. So it would be easier to play, Saturday than on Thursday night. So I think they would be no problem with that.
How do you feel about Thursday night football games? Because we've heard the good and the bad. We've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And most of the time on Thursday night football, Ricky, it's ugly. What's the reason for that? Explain that to people out there who don't really know the rigors of playing the NFL game.
Well, number one, your body doesn't have enough time to rest, to get itself, back together, before that game on Thursday night. I know during the course of time when I played, you would go and you would practice on Wednesday, practice Thursday, practice Friday, travel Saturday, play on Sunday. So now if you have a Thursday night game, you don't get any time off. You have to immediately go out on Monday, have a walkthrough, a little workout on Tuesday, travel on Wednesday, and then all of a sudden you're playing. So it's a very short week. Your body is still sore, going into, a Thursday practice or a Thursday game. So, you're just not up to that same level physical wise as you would be, for a Sunday night game or a Sunday, afternoon game. So it takes some time, and not only that, but just game planning. Sitting there trying to prepare yourselves mentally as well as physically for a short week in a quick turnaround for a football game. It takes a lot.
From what you hear from Bruce Arians and his pressers and looking at this team, do you think this team will be prepared for a Thursday night football game and all these primetime games? Because there's a lot of fans out there. They always go back to 2017. You remember so well after 2016, a winning season. You get Hard Knocks, and then you get the Hurricane. The expectations were all over the place, and they fail. Some people are kind of trying to equate both of the situations, but from what you see with this team, do you think they can handle those those national games this year?
Well, yeah, it's all about leadership, and Coach Arians and Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's played in a ton of them. Coach Arians has as well, so he knows what it takes to prepare his team. For Monday night game, Thursday night game, whatever it is, he would have these guys ready, have their mental mindset ready to go, have them mentally, physically prepared to go out and execute. So it's all about the experience, and they have enough experience around them to be able to get those guys ready to play for those big time games.
Well, okay, Ricky, now we're on with Ricky Reynolds, former corner for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, number 29 right there. If you guys have a question for him, don't be shy. The phone line is open, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web Bucs edition. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. We talked about Colin Cowherd last week, 13-3, Super Bowl versus the Baltimore Ravens. And now I'm reading this week, Sports Illustrated, 8-8. Ricky, explain this. You get Tom Brady, you get Rob Gronkowski, you do everything right, and you're telling me 8-8. This team isn't good enough to, well, I'll tell you what. Hold the thought. Let's go out to the phone lines. Let's go out to Matt Colson. Matt, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Ricky Reynolds.
Mr. Reynolds, back again. Glad to see it.
Thanks.
I've got a question for you, Peter. You guys were talking about Saturday, Sunday, Thursday, Monday.
Sure.
What about us people out in the middle of BFE that buy a DirecTV Sunday ticket, and then they put all these games on Saturday?
I hope they make some concession. You think they would, right, Ricky? I know you're not a national programmer, but you would think if you want to get ratings and keep your customers, that you would want to make some type of adjustment, right?
I'm sure they'll make some sort of adjustment so that the Sunday ticket people are able to see the games on Saturday as well.
Yeah.
Well, everybody is. They're national games during the holiday season when they do the Thanksgiving weekend thing.
Right.
It's always CBS has it on, and then the next week NBC has it on. It's never one of the DirecTV deals. The only time that ever comes into play is on Sunday when the Bucs are playing, and I get to watch them in my living room instead of having to drive down to Raymond J.
Well, there you go.
So I'm just curious about that because it's something we were talking about the follow the money last night.
Uh-huh.
And then this just brought it back up to me again because they're going to want me to send them about $1.50 to have the privilege of watching 16 games, hopefully that we win more than we lose this year.
Sure. Not according to Sports Illustrated, though. They say 8-8. I'm still dumbfounded by that with all the additions that they made offensively and bringing back the whole defense. I'm going to have Ricky explain this to me because I feel like I'm in the twilight zone when somebody says 8-8. That's only a one-game improvement for 2019.
In the words of Donald Trump, they're a failing institution. Their subscription rates are down. They have nothing to grab hold of, so they're giving you this.
Okay.
Or something to that effect.
Okay.
They're terrible.
Okay.
Terrible. But they're only one group, right? The NFL channel has been saying we're number 2 at least for 2 months.
Right.
I saw a thing out today on Facebook where they listed the top 12 teams or whatever it was, and the Buccaneers were right behind the Ravens, 1 and 2.
Now,
when's the last time you saw that crap?
Well, we talked about 2017, and I talked to Ricky about this, Matt, and I want to ask you: are you afraid of the expectations? Are you afraid of the primetime games this year?
Me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have a chance to be on. We got 5 games, right? If they leave the schedule as is.
Correct.
We got 5 primetime games.
Right.
I can't think of any team that's had that except maybe New England in a season.
Well,
and here's our chance to show. And if we pull a last year where we look like we should win or we don't, or we get all the way out and end up giving up a 28-3 kind of game, kind of like what we did with the Giants, that's not going to impress people.
right.
But on the other side of the coin, if we get on there and we show out, which is more likely to happen based on the veteran leadership that we have,
Right.
and the people that are accustomed to being on prime time, like JPP and Sue and all the other guys, then we're going to do very well. And I think Arians, I was listening to him today. He sounds like he's in top form, mid-season stride already. So if he's going to be able to convey that, and we can get through this compressed training camp with no preseason games, that first month is going to be the tell-all for everybody. It doesn't matter what team it is, because you can't just. Ricky was alluding to this about the break between Thursday night games and your body not regenerating and what have you.
Right.
You're going to have that same issue with the first month of the season having not had any contact drills, and nobody's used to it yet. So they're going to look pretty rusty all the way across the league for the first 3-4 weeks, in my opinion. I don't know. I might be wrong.
Yeah, well, I think, again, I'm not sure if this offense is going to start out as slow as a lot of people think they are. I don't buy that. What about you, Rick? Do you buy this offense is going to start out slow because of the number of reps, or are you saying, look, it's Tom Brady, okay? Come on. He's been in the league for years now. He's seen every defense. He's seen every offense. You can make adjustments. He's not going to make bad decisions. So in your estimation, do you feel like, Ricky, this offense is going to start out slow, or could they really surprise some people and come out like gangbusters?
They could surprise some people, but I think they will start out a little slow. I think that, it takes offenses a while to really get themselves going, to get themselves in a rhythm. And these guys are going out there playing their first game without any full speed games, to prepare for, like there's no preseason, so they haven't executed anything. And so you're going to go out the first few games, and are you expecting them to, be right on point? They may have their moments, where they make some big plays, I'm sure.
Right.
But they're not going to execute, like they will, 4 or 5 games down the road.
Matt, does that answer your question?
Yeah, y'all didn't straighten out the DirecTV thing yet, but I guess I can call them.
You got to call them. I mean, I can host a show. I can get Ricky Reynolds on, but I can't be your national programmer. I don't know what DirecTV is going to do. If I have my druthers, I would call DirecTV and say, give everybody free football on Saturdays and Sundays because of this global pandemic, right? I mean, enough of everything else, give everybody free football. But it's not like that. It's not my world. I'm not the president. I'm not the president of DirecTV, so I don't have that power. I mean, I just don't, man. I can only do so much. I'll tell you what. I'm going to get you out of here. Thanks a lot, Matt. I appreciate you, all right?
You guys have a good night.
All right, let's go out to the phone lines. Welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Ricky Reynolds, former Bucs corner and Pat's corner.
What's up, Peter? What's up, Ricky? It's Todd from St. Pete. How are you guys doing tonight?
I'm doing great, buddy. What's on your
mind? Doing good.
You got a question for
great.
Ricky?
Good to hear.
Okay.
So this whole argument about starting slow or not starting slow, my thing is this: it really doesn't matter whether the Buccaneers start slow or don't, because it's an equal playing field. Every team has the same issues to face that the Buccaneers do. So if every team doesn't have training camp the same way, if every team doesn't have preseason, nobody's had the pads on like they normally do. Nobody's had the opportunities that they normally do. So if all things are equal, how in the world is it that anyone could say that the Buccaneers are not so improved that they're not going to win at least one more game than they did in 2019 against a team that's equally matched in terms of preparation? That's the thing I don't get.
I don't either.
Everybody's on the same playing field, right?
I thought so. I don't get it. I thought the Bucs would have an advantage if you get rid of a quarterback that threw 30 interceptions. I get it. He threw 33 touchdowns,
Right.
Okay, but you're getting rid of a quarterback that's not going to be able to, who takes care of the ball, who's not going to throw 30 interceptions, right? We know. I mean, even though it's 2020 and you have everything that's going out of control right now, we know that Tom Brady's not going to throw 30 interceptions.
That's a fact.
35 years, he would equal 30 interceptions, but as far as but hey, who knows? 2020, it's crazy right now.
There's probably a Vegas taking odds on that he will, and it pays out $200 million if you get it.
Right. I think I'm good with that bet, honestly. Maybe I should do that.
Yeah, but if every team is in the same category in terms of preparation,
right,
mentally, physically,
right,
then the idea that somehow we're at a disadvantage is ludicrous. It's ridiculous. It makes no sense. So do we go out and go undefeated? No. But do we go out and perform less than the other teams that we're matched up against? I don't think so.
Okay.
I really don't think so.
Okay. Would you have a problem with having Saturday games, even Friday night games, Ricky? If they cancel high school football, would you guys be okay with Saturday, Friday night games for the NFL?
No, for me, I wouldn't want too many nights, as far as being a fan, it's okay. But as far as being an organization, a team that has to play on, either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, that's a lot of different, adjustments that you have to make. And that would be kind of tough to have to adjust each and every week, not knowing, exactly how your, week is going to go. What I'm saying, to prepare, it's tough.
Yeah, definitely. What else, Todd?
That was it, guys. I really enjoyed the show. And it's like I said, it's great that you guys have former players, analysts, scouts. I mean, you guys are knocking it out of the park. Ricky, you do a great job, man. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
Great night, y'all.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Todd. Open phone line if you have a question for Mr. Ricky Reynolds, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. I'll give you this name, and maybe you've seen the headline, Kima. Well, we'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go out to Johnny Dean, the professor. Johnny Dean, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with former Buck, Ricky Reynolds.
How you guys doing? Hello, Ricky. How you doing?
Good. How you doing, John?
I just want to respond to Matt and a little bit on the.
You got the DirecTV question? You're the president of DirecTV?
No, well, no? I'm a subscriber.
Oh, you're a subscriber.
Okay. Me a letter. That they're going to reinstate my Sunday ticket if they don't play the game, or I have the option to hold on to it for the following year. I got that letter yesterday, actually, and
that doesn't give me much confidence that they're going to give away free games. That I didn't hear that. I didn't hear Saturday games for free.
No, they've already taken my money, so I ain't getting no free games.
What a bunch of suckers!
The team's balance and stuff. There's going to be advantages and disadvantages. The younger teams are going to suffer more than the older team. The more vet-present teams are going to do because they've had more time in the system and stuff like that.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. I think the Bucs are kind of balanced there with the youth and the experience. They're not at the point where the Ravens or the I don't know, the Chiefs. The Chiefs are an enigma. I don't know how you categorize them, but they're the Chiefs. I think San Francisco's got a good vet presence there. So I think the Bucs are like between 8 and 1 in that category as far as vet presence. So I don't think there's nothing to worry about. There's some teams that are out there scrambling because they got such a youthful team that they're having problems.
Sure. Sure. Do you think they start out? Say, okay, that's all you got to say. All right, Johnny Dean, thanks a lot. Appreciate you. All right.
All right, later, guys.
All right, later. I'm going to give you this name now. Kima Sarand. I think I'm saying his name right. Cornerback from the Seahawks was cut. Did you hear this? Tom Pelissero, the NFL Network, says after he was caught on video trying to sneak a female visitor into his team hotel, the woman was wearing Seahawks gear in an effort to make her look like a player who has access to the hotel. First and foremost, I don't know about you, but I just don't see that working out. If I'm picturing this, she has to be probably a lot skinnier than a football player. She's a woman. So, of course, that's not going to work. Definitely not planned out by Kima. But is this too harsh of a penalty by the Seahawks? He's an undrafted guy, played for Texas A&M, cornerback for Oklahoma State. Or is this what a team has to do with everything that's going on with the COVID protocols?
This is what a team has to do. You know, you don't want to bring that, COVID into your locker room or into your hotel, as this young fella did. And this is some of the things that you have to watch out for, especially with the younger guys, the rookies. They get lonely. They like to, gallivant around. They're going to want to party, go out, and chase the ladies and all that sort of stuff. So this is just the beginning of it, And this guy got started early, and you had to set an example. So that's what the Seahawks did. They released him, and just letting everybody know we can't have this. You can't bring people in to our hotel, into our space, or to our private space, because you're threatening everybody that's on the team and in the organization. And Pete Carroll's an older guy. You don't want to get it, so you got to go.
Would you see this happening to a superstar, or would you see the team being more lenient?
Well, yeah, you just shake your finger at him and maybe fine him or something. But yeah, you're not going to let go of a superstar.
Yeah,
not at all.
Makes lots of sense. I feel bad for the kid. I understand it. But then again, you've got to, your priority has to be, are you an NFL corner in this league, or are you just trying to have a good time? And at the end of the day, there's a lot of stuff going on. Everybody wants to have a good time, but you got to be safe, and you can't do that. So let's go out to these big contract signings, and then we'll get you out of here. George Kittle, 5 years, $75 million, $40 million guaranteed for injury, $30 million in signing, nearly 3,000 receiving yards, 85 catches in 2019. In 2018, 88 catches, 5 touchdowns in both years. And then you have Travis Kelce, the tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs, 4 years, $57.25. You've already talked about how you would defend Rob Gronkowski. In case people didn't catch this, how would you defend both of these players? Because they're very similar. One's making 15, the other's making 14.3. But the reason why they're so similar, not only can they pass catch and be a mismatch nightmare for a corner like yourself, but also the physicality in the blocking game to help out with the run. How would you defend both of these players?
Well, first of all, both those guys are very deserving of those contracts. Tremendous football players. They make a difference in their teams in the passing game. But both of them are great route runners. They have good speed, especially for big guys. They're strong, they're physical, so they can, box you out and that sort of stuff. So for both of those guys, I probably would play them a little differently. I would back off sometimes. Sometimes I play them, with a soft technique and try to match up with them. Every now and then I get up and jam them and play them underneath, but try to mix it up with them. You have to mix it up with them. And then sometimes you may want to have some help, depending on the situation. Both of these guys are very effective in the goal line area and also on third down. So you might want to kind of box them, have somebody playing inside while you're playing outside, double team every now and then. So you got to give them some different looks, because they're both deadly, and they're both very effective.
Did you ever get a chance to defend a tight end, and who was the toughest tight end that you ever defended, if that's possible to tell?
Oh boy. I actually had to play, I'm going to say Sterling Sharp, but Shannon Sharp, when he was with Denver. And he was good. He's a tight end, but really was a receiver, in a tight end's body. And so he was probably the best tight end I played against.
Nice. And then I'm going to go out to Joe Montana, and we'll get you out of here. His comments are basically in so many words. He met with Tom Brady during the 100 ceremonies. He asked what he's saying is that Tom Brady the reason why he left New England is because they were asking him for advice. I tell them, and then they don't take it. And then the one of the beasts was he didn't have a lot of input into the offense. Much has been made about Bruce Arians. First and foremost, if Bruce Arians were your coach, what do you think about him? And how pumped up would you be to play for Coach Arians? And then do you feel like Tom Brady is going to have a little bit more input than we feel instead of thinking it's Bruce Arians and, of course, Byron Leftwich's offense?
Well, first of all, Bruce Arians would be great to play for. I think he's a player's coach, a guy that, listens to his players, a guy that interacts well with them, communicates well with them, and will listen to them, and I think Tom Brady has a great, opportunity here to be able to have input into the game plan from week to week and to discuss on, how he would like to attack a team that will go along with Bruce Arians. I think they'll work things out by communicating with one another and putting the best game plan together while working with each other during the course of the week. So Tom Brady's in a good situation.
Yeah, Tom Brady's definitely in a good situation. And, of course, we're in a good situation on Thursday nights with former Bucs corner, Pat's Corner, sports analyst, Mr. Ricky Reynolds. Thanks a lot for joining me here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, see you next week.
All right. Yep, see you next week, Peter. All
right, there you go. Ricky Reynolds, former Bucs corner right there. Open phone lines if you guys want to talk to us. 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. Let's go out to the web heads here, read some comments from you guys. I get it. You're down in the dumps. The Tampa Bay Lightning lost, but perk up. It's a 5-game series. I know there's a lot of hockey fans out there. And, of course, we're only a month away, 30 days away from the starting season for the New Orleans Saints versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Come on, light these phone lines up. 727-255-0391 at 727-255-0391. Of course, a part of the Landry Football Network. Again, I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Hey, Peter, up and down for Tampa Bay. Rays win, Lightning lose. That has been the story for Tampa Bay sports fans throughout our history, right? I'm from here. I'm not from somewhere else. I'm not from New York. I'm not from Chicago or LA or Boston. Not to say those people are bad. We just feel the same thing. I understand your pain as a sports fan. Let's go out to the phone lines. Welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's on your mind tonight?
Do you think the Bucs have an edge over the Saints now because due to no fans?
I think and this would be Eric, right?
Yeah.
Eric, thanks a lot for calling. Yeah, I definitely think there's a big-time advantage because, look, the Saints have home field advantage. It gets noisy in there. You start to pick up 5- and 10-yard penalties because guys are flinching. You're trying to hear the calls. So now with no fans in there, the Bucs definitely have an advantage. There's no more home field advantage for the Saints. Of course, the Saints are going to look at this situation, and we'll talk to Blake Ruffino at 10 o'clock to see what he thinks about it and see where the Saints are with this situation. But I definitely feel like they have an advantage with no fans. Anytime you have no fans, look, you go to a place like the Saints where it's loud and noisy, a lot of bad things can happen pre-snap, during the snap. And then on top of that, they give you that momentum. When a team is winning and you're down in the game, you have to come back. It can be a noisy place. Same thing with the 12th man in Seattle. So, yes, a big-time advantage for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What else, Eric?
I got some more questions. Like what you're saying, but do you think that game will be a shootout?
I think it could be. I think it also could be where possibly a lot of people are saying the offense starts out slow, so the defense carries them. I don't know how to look at this season. I look at it on paper, and I see the Bucs, and they've got everything you would want. But then again, how are the reps going to affect this team going forward in 2020? I feel like it may be a shootout. It may just be a shootout, and whoever has the ball last may win.
Yeah, but look at this. We won without Jameis Winston before. and New Orleans with Ryan Fitzmagic.
Yep.
We won with Jim Hudson at New Orleans before. But look at this. Here's the thing about that. Tom Brady, without turnovers, it would be cutting down to half.
Yep.
A turnover.
Absolutely. They're going to have an advantage, and the Saints, not a winning record in Brady's career. You're not going to know what to expect out of this offense. Again, people expect them to run Arians' offense, which they may, but they also may run some stuff from New England, which Brady would like the input of. But we just, seen from Joe Montana, just telling USA Today Sports, that's one of the main reasons why Brady left New England in the first place. He wanted input in the offensive calls, and now he's going to get that in Tampa. So I think they have an advantage overall. I do. And if they can get past the Saints in the Superdome without fans, I think it's clear sailing after that. There are some tough games, but really not like last year's schedule, Eric, right? I mean, you're not starting 7 weeks on the road. I mean, it's got to be better.
Yeah, that's true. I think Kansas City is the only threat to the Bucs this year. Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, Kansas City, Baltimore, I think would definitely be in that conversation as we've talked about.
We don't play Baltimore. Yeah, we don't play Baltimore this year.
Right, but I'm saying, Baltimore, Kansas City. I'm looking at the Super Bowl picture, my friend. Kansas City on their schedule, yes, there'll be a tough game, but it's a game they can win.
Hey, it will be amazing Super Bowl, the Bucs versus the Patriots. Belichick versus Tom Brady.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Patriots are that good. You think the Patriots are a playoff team this year? With all the opt-outs they had 8 opt-outs. You have a new quarterback in Cam Newton. I don't necessarily think they're a playoff team.
But look at this. We don't know that because that's Belichick, though.
It's true.
We don't know.
You don't know. You're exactly right. But I think there's a lot of people that would not say Belichick and the Patriots versus the Bucs in the Super Bowl. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm willing to bet it won't happen.
Like we see against Bruce Bank, like we saw John Gruden against his old team. That's why I want to see Tom Brady against his old team.
Well, sure.
That would be amazing.
Sure, it would be a great storyline. Is it possible? I guess, but I don't see New England doing that well this year, not with all the changes they had in the offseason. Anything else, Eric?
You said, yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this. I got a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
If the Bucs don't make the playoff this year, as a Bucs fan, you think somebody will be fired this year, or wait next year to be somebody will be fired?
What do you think? You tell me. Would you be disappointed if the Bucs don't make the playoffs this year?
I'll be streaming this morning. I think the whole GM will be fired. The whole coaching staff will be fired.
After 1 year? After 1 year? Wow. Okay. I don't think that. So? I don't necessarily think. I mean, it has to completely fail, and somebody has to get hurt, like a Brady. If he goes down to an injury, that's where it could go off the rails. If it goes like that, I certainly think it may be possible, but I definitely think they're going to give this 2 years to work it out. And I'm not sure. Okay. They got so much talent here. I can't see it going off the rails.
That's what I'm just asking. If as effective as a Bucs fan, I'll be upset if we don't make the playoffs this year.
Okay.
I got high expectations this year. Super Bowl or bust.
Super Bowl or bust. Okay. All right, Eric. I appreciate you. Thanks a lot for calling the Sports Web. All right.
Okay.
All right. I mean, that's what he says. I mean, he would be disappointed. He says Super Bowl or bust. Sorry, Johnny Dean. Open phone line, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. Let's go out to the phone lines here. Darvish for the Cubs has a no-hitter going through 5 innings so far. The Cubs have been a big-time story of Major League Baseball early in this year. Let's go out to Johnny Dean. Johnny Dean, welcome to the Evolution. What's on your mind?
I called in just to say, see what I was telling you.
Well, look, I don't agree with that. I really don't. 1 year, that's tough. So I see where you're coming from. I could not see them.
The mentality of the Buccaneers fans.
Yeah, I can't see him doing 1 year, but I will say this: there would be a big time disappointment if you don't at least make the playoffs, right?
Right. I agree. It'd be not making the playoffs would be a disappointment, but with the COVID around, I could understand if Brady goes down, who are we using?
No,
Gabbert.
you got your
Yeah,
Gabbert.
As much as I say Gabbert can hand the ball off or throw short passes. And
Yeah,
stuff like that,
you and Ray Kennedy, a part of that fan club, the Blaine
Right.
Gabbert fan club. We got to get him on the sports web.
There is no way I will sit there and say Blaine Gabbert's going to win a whole season. If we have, I do see the talent on the team, and I do trust Bucs Arians, but
sure,
even at Gabbert, I don't see. There's too much competition in this league for Gabbert to go out there and do anything without doing something special.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, a couple of games, sure. Behind him, I wouldn't trust a single person behind Gabbert to go on that field and lead that team to a win.
Yeah, it's a tough
Would you?
situation. No, of course not. I think that's one of the main keys there. You've got to keep him upright. You got to keep him healthy, and that's why it's so important for you to look. If you're going to that 12 personnel, we've talked about tight ends meaning so much, and you can see Kelsey, Kittle. Why are they getting paid? Oh, big time numbers. Touchdowns, but also the physicality that they bring to the running game and the pass protection. That's what you're going to get with a Rob Gronkowski. $10 million now seems very good. Seems like a good deal, right, Bucs fans? So getting him, having that 12 personnel, and making sure you're on those blocks or you're helping those offensive linemen out to keep Brady upright so he doesn't take that damaging hit to end your season is so important. And once again, that's one of my big keys for 2020, this offensive line. You got 30 days. You got a month until the season starts with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 27 for the NFL season. It is right around the corner. Right around the corner.
Absolutely.
So what else, Johnny?
Absolutely.
Feeling good, buddy?
That's pretty much it. I can't put all my eggs in one season's baskets. I just cannot do that.
You're starting to change. You're starting to change. Yeah, you're starting to change my mind on that, and I'll tell you why. Because if I have that mentality where you don't even make the playoffs and you're going to fire everybody the first year with the COVID situation, I couldn't do it. But I will say that there are big time expectations. I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. Not yet.
There are expectations, and there are a lot of hopes because the Super Bowl is in Tampa.
Sure,
that raises hopes.
I agree.
So
I agree.
I agree. But
I agree. All right. Well, for that, here we go. There you go, buddy. There you go. Hope you're healthy. Thanks a lot for the call. All right.
All right, later, guys.
Later. All right, so open phone line, and we got Blake Ruffino here at 10 o'clock. I'm going to get his thoughts on the SEC, on the New Orleans Saints situation. What does he think? Anything in the sports world we can talk about. It's Bucs night. It's also Pro Football Edition of the Sports Web. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Matt, welcome to the Evolution. What's on your mind?
Hey, this is Matt again.
I know.
I'm like that bad, weird guy that keeps calling.
No, that's okay.
I see on the screen here, you got a pop-up that says Todd Gurley seen limping today. I'm wondering if anybody in the world thought that was a newsflash.
Well, I mean, look, he's been damaged goods. That's the reason why in the first place, he was picked up. He was picked up and the Rams let him go. After he signed that contract extension, he's been hurt. He's had multiple knee injuries before, so there's a big-time question mark, and everybody's looking at paper saying, well, the Falcons are a favorite because they got Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, and they got Todd Gurley. Well, Todd Gurley isn't what he used to be, right?
No,
that's the reason why he was let go by the Rams.
He was arthritic in the knees last year, I think.
Correct.
So that stuff doesn't get better. I don't care what all these things on you see on the ads on Facebook and whatever that can fix the joints and whatever.
Right.
I'll tell you what, from a guy who's had a bad back and a bum knee, not Johnny Dean football injuries, but stuff that I've had to live with for a while.
Right.
It doesn't get any better with age. You just have to go out and deal with it. And I wouldn't want to be a pro football player in that situation.
Well, that's why you get big time money like Travis Kelce today and George Kittle got. Talking about $14 million a year.
And both of those are on the Chiefs, right?
No. Kittle is with the 49ers, and of course, Kelce is with the Chiefs. Chiefs seem like they won the lottery. They've been signing everybody.
I was going to say, where are they coming up with all this money?
Super Bowl win, all the revenue that they're getting, I guess. I don't know. They're hiding it under their bed. Who knows?
Do they not have the same payroll structure that the rest of the league has?
I have no idea what kind of payroll structure they have, but whatever it is, it's good. Money is good right now.
Yeah, man.
The money is good, and you got to get it while you can get it. Patrick Mahomes, $503 million. You got Kelsey. You've got.
But
I'm trying to think.
Kelsey or Kittle, one of them, they took like a lesser amount. One of them I saw was like the 12th highest paid in their position.
Right.
I can't remember which one it was.
Right. Kelsey took 14.3. That's his average. And he actually led in some categories more than Kittle, but Kittle got paid more because he's a younger player. And he's got 15. So it's a little bit more, but both of those tight ends very comparable to each other.
Yeah, I think I could live off of that salary. I don't know. It might be tough, but it would definitely be an upgrade for me. I don't know about you. You're making all the big bucks. But I did see that, and I thought all the signings were over with, and I guess I was wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, and the thing that for me was their big signing was the defensive player in Chris Jones. I didn't think they will be able to get him signed because of the Mahomes contract. What do I know? I mean, I'm not a finance guy. I'm not a math guy. I failed math in college. So what the hell do I know about math? I can't budget anything. I spend more money on garbage than I spend on that. So if you ask me to budget that deal, most likely Chris Jones doesn't get signed. But the Chiefs, they figured it out with their administration. Andy Reid, just a tremendous job of coaching that talent. Eric Bieniemy, having him as an offensive coordinator. Eventually, NFL owners, NFL general managers, you have to give him a coaching job. So they've done a tremendous job. And look, they're anticipating winning 7 championships. I mean, that's where they're going, and that's their mindset. And what they've done in the offseason gives them every opportunity. Now, what players are they going to lose in the future? That remains to be seen. That remains to be seen.
Next point. They're going to eventually have to pay the band for all of this money going.
Agree. Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree.
The Rams did the same thing, and they had their shot and lost it.
All right. $200 million they invested in free agency, but this is a little bit different, Matt. You're investing in your own guys. I don't have a problem with that, because what that tells me is you have so much great drafting and young talent. You're able to sign your own guys. I would rather sign my young guys instead of going out in free agency and signing a Band-Aid or somebody you're not sure about, right?
Certainly.
I mean, this is the reason why the Chiefs and other teams around the league are consistent. They sign their own players, but where do they get those players? They draft them and they develop them. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're drafting properly.
Sure.
I guess that's. But isn't Andy Reid? He was in Philly. Is he not the GM and the coach?
He's
some personnel say so.
He has some say so. I think it's Brent Veach who is the GM there. He's done a very good job. So. Brett Veach.
He did a pretty good job in Philly.
Right.
Keeping players.
Absolutely.
He had a pretty good roster for a number of years.
Sure.
Tampa certainly knows about that, with the exception of Rondé Barber sticking it into him the last game of the history. But before that, we could never get by him.
Sure.
So they were doing very well. And that's one of the things he's had his whole career, is that he's been able to maintain a team, build a team up, put the players on the field, and keep the same guys for a number of years, like you're talking about, which we just don't do in Tampa for whatever reason.
Well, you don't do it because you don't draft well and you don't develop well. They've drafted somewhat, you have constant coaching change, right? We talked about it this week with Jason Light. Up and down. Does he hit on every first round pick? Does he hit on every second and third round or fourth round pick? No, he doesn't. But he's definitely got talent on this team. The problem is that when you have an organization that continues to play musical chairs with coaches, you don't get the opportunity to develop those young players, which is why if you miss out on some of these draft picks, you have to go into free agency and get a slug like a Chris Baker or even a Deshaun Jackson, who to me is one of the worst free agent signings of all time. You know why? Because there were so many expectations for Jackson to come in here and light up the world. He did absolutely nothing. He was like instead of being a guy that's going to light it up, he was just
he lit it up to the bank account.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. Disappointing.
Down to the ATM.
Yeah,
and Reeves was the same way. They brought in him, and honestly, I didn't think he was a fit, and he didn't want to be here.
Right,
he got paid, and he played his little contract out and got traded or left or whatever the hell.
Got traded to the Eagles, played 2 games, and then decided to call it a day. We'll see what he does this year, because Eagles already have their situation. Yeah, he's still with the Eagles. Yeah, he's still with them.
Oh, my God.
Yep.
what, as old as Brady is now, isn't he?
Nah, he's not that old. It seems like he is. He's been around for a while, but yeah, he's about 32, 33 years old. He's still got the wills. He just can't stay healthy. And also,
well, he was the safety for Ryan up in New York, wasn't he?
who was?
Revis. Wasn't he on the
Oh, no.
secondary?
I'm talking about Deshaun Jackson. Revis is not playing
Deshaun
it.
Jackson,
Revis is not playing anymore. Revis is gone. Yeah, he's done. He's retired, buddy.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, he's done. He's gone.
Jackson is the guy who learned from Rosie O'Donnell or Roseanne, whatever the hell it was, how to send out an appropriate Twitter.
Right, tweet.
And then tweet.
Yeah, we call it tweet, not Twitter. Twitter is the platform, but tweet. You're exactly right. It was stupid. It was actually Instagram. So
was that an Instagram deal?
Yeah, it was an Instagram message.
That was the dumbest thing I've seen somebody do in a long time.
It is
and
very
then
dumb.
Turn around and
Yep.
that was just. I'm not going to go down that route. But that
No.
was
Yeah, definitely a dumb Instagram by Deshaun Jackson, and he's had to explain it to the organization. He's had to explain it to Jewish players around the league. And he's going to be looked at differently. Definitely going to be looked at differently in 2020. So,
and as I recall, he wrote a check too. So,
well, that's what you do. If you get out of line, you tweet out or you Instagram out, you write a check to Fifth Avenue.
There you go.
In care of the NFL and Roger Goodell. They love that stuff. What else, Matt?
I've got nothing right now. I'm sure if I keep listening, I'll think of something.
All right, buddy.
Somebody else can take your time. But it's been fun, Peter.
Hey, buddy. I appreciate you, okay?
Have a good night.
All right. Thanks a lot. Open phone line, 727-255-0391. I don't think I ever say I got nothing. I mean, if I go on a show and say I got nothing, then I got nothing. I always got something here on the Sports Web. The evolution of Sports Talk Television. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook. Of course, live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Chris Landry Twitch channel here on Bucs Report. Let's go back out to the webheads, and then we will get Mr. Blake Ruffino on Are You Serious? But it looks like I'm going to take some more calls. So welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This is Eric again. I had some ideas, more thoughts. Look at this. I have some ideas.
Okay.
If Tom Brady did go down, we can always call Kevin Kaepernick come to the Bucs.
Now, I don't know if that's possible. I kind of feel like they're going to go with Blaine Gabbert because Gabbert knows the system. Coach Arians is comfortable with him. So I can't see a Kaepernick coming here. I just can't.
Kevin Kaepernick is a veteran. He's been to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he hasn't, Eric, he hasn't played in a couple years. I mean, he hasn't played in 3 or 4 years. What are you going to get out of him? He's got to learn a new system. I get it. He's got athleticism. He has led the 49ers to the Super Bowl, but you really don't know what you're going to get out of a Colin Kaepernick. He hasn't played in the league. You got to be in league shape. Is he going to be in league shape?
We can give him a league minimum like we did Shaq Barrett, a league minimum.
Well, you didn't give Shaq Barrett a league minimum. You gave him I believe it's $15 million for a 1-year contract.
I meant $3 million when he first came. Like $3 or $4 million when he first came.
I don't see it, Eric. I don't see Colin Kaepernick being a Buck. I see them staying with Blaine Gabbert, Ryan Griffin, and whoever else they got on the roster because they know the system. So, what else?
I mean, do you think there's a little chance?
I'm sorry?
You might be a small chance, maybe.
Do I think there's a chance? I always think there's a chance for anything, but not with this team. I think Colin Kaepernick is not going to be signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do not think.
Man, I've been hearing Tony Brown rumors are heating up again.
Yeah, that's nonsense. I don't see Antonio Brown going to the Buccaneers. If he gets signed by another team, I would be shocked. I heard he's
the top 5 choice. Top 5 spot.
Yeah, I seen the same thing, Eric. I seen the same thing. I don't think it's going to happen. He's a nuisance. He's a malcontent in the locker room. On top of it, he's suspended. I don't care. Of course he wants to be a Buck, but you don't want him in your locker room. He's going to be suspended the first 8 games of the year, and then on top of it, Eric, he's already facing investigation by the NFL, so he could be suspended longer. Why would you want that in your locker room? Why would Bruce Arians want that in the locker room?
how about if Mike Evans goes down, Chris Godwin, we have a backup?
No, go with what you have. No, and knock on wood before you say Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to go down. No, to Mr. Big Chest.
I'm just saying. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm sorry.
Go with what you have. Go with the guys that are here. Don't go with an Antonio Brown. No, say no to Antonio Brown. What else, Eric?
Okay, that's all, I guess.
All right, buddy.
Sorry.
Thanks a lot. No, you're not sorry. Don't be sorry. I feel passionately about this. Okay, I don't feel like the Bucs are going to go with an Antonio Brown because of Bruce Arians' comments in March. He's not a fit. I mean, he didn't mince words. He said he's not a fit in this locker room. We've got enough guys. No, he's not a fit. I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead. We'll read these comments, and then we will get to Blake Ruffino. Let's see here. What's up, guys? Mike says, just keep Thursday, Sunday, Saturday, Monday night games. Rick says, we don't know what this girl looks like. We don't know what he's into. That might have been a big girl. May have looked like an offensive line, and here's my response to that. I highly doubt it. I honestly highly doubt that, Rick, but nice job. There are a lot of jokes to crack about camp meet. Goodness gracious, 29. Johnny Dean advantage goes to the best-built team, Johnny Dean again. Pats are in no shape to take out the Chiefs or the Ravens. I doubt very seriously they will beat the Bills or the Chargers. The Deck Bar and Grill at Isla de Sol. Let's see. Cap still available. He is. We talked about it, Eric. Thank you for the call. Breaking news. Todd Gurley finishes a season healthy. Laugh out loud. It's 2020. You can't rule out anything, but right now, I doubt it. Simply due to the money. Roger Shue. Can't wait for my barbecue tomorrow. Laugh out loud. See ya in the AM. That would be Roger Shue from Newport Richie. We bet on the game today. Of course, I lost because I picked the Tampa Bay Lightning. So now I got to buy my friend some barbecue. There you go. So we will definitely get to that. Thanks a lot for the comment, Roger Shue. You're still a jerk. Don't feel bad, Peter H. Blake. The team uses an entire staff of accountants and lawyers working out those deals. Absolutely. Are you serious? What it do, everybody? It's Blake Ruffino from Are You Serious of the Landry Football Network. We will get to him in a moment. David Spade, you're going to call in tonight. I don't know if David Spade, that would be Mr. Travis Feely of Rocket Sports and Entertainment. I have hair like Spade in a game like Wade. Very nice. Bruce Arians is the last coach that would touch Brown. Tom Brady wants AB. He gone. And Soundboard Willie. Okay. Enough of you guys. Let's go out to Blake Ruffino. Are you serious? And I love Eric and his calls, but come on, Blake Ruffino. Are you serious? Antonio Brown to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can we have this rumor die? Welcome to the evolution of sports talk television. What's going on tonight, buddy?
Peter, it's great to be back. Sorry. Can you hear me, by the way? Can everybody hear me?
Okay, I can hear you fine. Absolutely.
Great. Listen, I mean, I'm very good friends with a New Orleans Saints, someone inside the New Orleans Saints who's a part of that staff. Look, I grew up with him. I played with him. Antonio Brown had a workout for the Saints last year, and they told him not to bring an entourage, and he did. Huh. I think when you start talking about Antonio Brown and you start talking about the things that he does, is he extremely talented? Yes, but we have to sit here and start asking the question, man. Like, is he a cancer to the locker room? And he is. Talent is not going to beat being a cancer in the locker room. Outside of the Terrell Owens, who pretty much changed a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles, you can tolerate some things. Antonio Brown, you can't, Peter. And that's just my take on it. And listen, I could go back and read the text because I was trying to break news. You know, that's been my thing for a while people, you know, the 8,000 great Are You Syrians follow us. And I'm like, let me break it. He goes, we ain't signing this fool. You know, and that was just the truth. And look, he's going to do the same in Tampa. And you got too many receivers in Tampa, too many mouths to feed. And look, I came out and I think, Peter, right after the show that we did, Tampa Bay has the number one receiver core in the nation. You don't sign him. You would probably go get a corner and a Logan Ryan. You always could use corners before you would go get a receiver. It's just the truth. You would go get another pass rusher. You can't have enough pass rushers. I saw the comment, Peter, about the offensive lineman and the girl. Y'all stop talking about these offensive linemen now. As a former collegiate offensive lineman, stop talking. negatively about offensive linemen. You can always use depth at those positions. As far as Antonio Brown, you're not going to sign him at the league minimum. As far as Kaepernick, not a chance.
Not a chance. I mean, I get it. Everybody wants to sign Kaepernick because of what he was 3 to 4 years ago. But that's 3 to 4 years ago. That's a quarterback that doesn't know your system. Well, we already know when you're a quarterback in Bruce Arians' system, you have the tendency to throw a lot of interceptions. I don't see it happening. They're going to go with the Blaine Gabbert, and I know there's fans out there going to shake their head, but it's being comfortable with that quarterback. He's been in the NFL. He's worked under Bruce Arians with Arizona before. He's worked under this Tampa Bay system. You're not going to go out and get a guy that doesn't know your system, that hasn't played in the league, who you don't even know if he's committed to playing football or he's even in the shape to play football, Blake.
Exactly. And listen, the same – look, how do I say this? Because I want to connect the dots here. But when you talk about Teddy Bridgewater last year for the Saints, Coach Zimmer and Sean Payton were in Dallas together. A lot of the same offensive schemes that Minnesota try to run with Teddy Bridgewater, they're going to be doing at the Saints anyway. That was a fit. So there was some connection there. And Coach Zimmer talked a lot to Sean about Teddy Bridgewater. I think that Blaine Gabbert, as bad as he's been over these time in the NFL, if God forbid, and I'm knocking on wood here, Peter, but God forbid something happened to Tom. Let's say Tom, in today's society, let's say Tom tests positive for COVID-19, right? You need a guy that can come in there for 14 days or 2 weeks and be able to put something together. And Peter, I was going to start off too. Listen, when you have training camp and the Bucs are coming to New Orleans. Now, New Orleans is doing this pretty good, in my opinion. Hey, no fans week 1. They're going to go week by week with this. Okay, they're going to go week by week with fans in Louisiana. So when you have that connection with a coach, I think it's a big deal. Coach Zimmer even talked about, God, I can't believe that Teddy Bridgewater went to New Orleans and they traded for him because we were running a lot of the same offensive schemes. Look, as a guy that, at Southeastern in 2009, Peter, we brought a quarterback into our class. We used a scholarship on this kid because he played with the offensive coordinator we were bringing in. He wasn't that great. He backed up. He was a backup. Okay, for 3 straight seasons, only because if our starting quarterback went down, he could run the offense for us. So that's what I would say why you would bring in a Blaine Gabbert. Ryan Griffin is another guy that I know very well. Okay, Ryan Griffin, look, he can spin that thing now. If you need him to come in for a couple games, Ryan Griffin can spin that thing now. I mean, I was a center at a camp with him for a couple times, and he was like, he was a very smart dude. I would make a call. This is a long time ago now, but I would make a call, say check right, and we're doing these 7-on-7s, and he pat me on the right side, say no, go check left, and I'd be like, look, I'm just gonna listen to you, and he'd make the right call. So I think Ryan Griffin, if you absolutely needed him to, if not just a camp body, but if you needed him, he would be okay too. So I think that the Bucs will be okay at quarterback. You don't need Cap at this point.
Yeah, you don't. We're on with Blake Ruffino, Are You Serious? Sports talk show on the Landry Football Network, a part of our new family here on the sports web, the evolution of sports talk television. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. A lot of people talk about this quarterback situation with the Gabbert and the Ryan Griffin. Do you feel like the reason why Griffin has stayed so long with this Tampa Bay Buccaneer team is because he is so smart and he goes about his business in a professional manner? And I know that sounds simplistic, but a lot of coaches appreciate that because there's some players. By the way, Kima Silveran, for the cornerback of the Seattle Seahawks, who didn't do it. So is that the reason why Griffin continues to stay on the Bucs?
I'm sorry, Peter. That's just so funny.
That's great stuff.
That's so much good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
in reference to Ryan, look, there's a lot of times, Peter. Look, we had a kid that was an offensive lineman that was behind me, was a guy that walked on and came in, and we were talking about protection schemes. Okay. And a lot of times when I'm watching film, and now he's a coach at Tulane, and he would look at me and say, Blake, look, when he does this, you should expect to slide right. And I'm like, man, you can't. The valuability, and I know valuability is not a word. I'm like George W. Bush here, but the valuability of that and him telling me, hey, look, if he's at the one technique and then he slides over the head, they're going to slant to the wide side of the field. It's these small things. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but to me, that makes a lot of sense when a quarterback is that smart, even if he's on the practice squad and watching film with Tom Brady. You mean to tell me that Tom Brady's not going to value that guy because he's going to break down film and see the same things he does? You're absolutely right, he will. And so that's where I sit here and I ask myself, why do these teams keep quarterbacks, 2, 3, 4 quarterbacks? It's for that specific reason. There's a reason that the Saints have kept 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks on their entire roster. Look, JT Barrett from Ohio State could break down a lot of film. He would go in there and say, look, I'm seeing this, and it was a great value. Now he's not with the Saints anymore, but you bring in these smart quarterbacks to be able to break down film, and that's why Ryan Griffin is going to be a part of this team for a long time. I think a long time is 2 or 3 years. As long as Tom Brady's there, I think he would be a part of it because of the value that he would bring in that room.
Now, we talked about the Saints and not having fans. Do you think that's a disadvantage for the Saints? Of course, having an empty Superdome, because as you know, you've watched a lot of Saints games as I have, and it's been a house of horrors for the Bucs, especially on the pre-snap, because when that crowd starts to kick in, you're not able to hear those pre-snap reads, and then your offensive lineman may be jumping a little bit sooner because they can't hear the count. So is it a disadvantage, in your opinion, for the Saints to not have fans that first week? And how disappointing is it for you and Saints fans alike?
It's disappointing for my wife more than me because we have season tickets right on the 50-yard line. Her dad, before he passed, had season tickets, and we were at that Tampa Bay game. Actually, the one with Fitzmagic and Jameis Winston last year when they came to the Dome, and it's loud. Look, I look at my wife and I tell her something, and she can't hear it. I mean, us coon asses, we're 2 Bloody Marys in, and we can't. We're screaming. Peter, in two aspects here. Number one, it's a disadvantage because, like you just talked about, you can hear what you're doing, right? And you can hear what you're doing, and if Breeze makes a check, you can hear exactly what he wants. That's an advantage in a point where you can go up to the line, make the checks, and everyone gets exactly what you want to do. I guess I don't know how to really say this, but the disadvantage too is that you don't have the crowd for defense. So offense is going to be good and defense is going to be horrible. Here's the thing too, Peter. Now, this is not showboating, if you will, but I remember when I was playing and we were playing in Starkville, and we did a little screen and I peeled back and hit a cornerback, and even everybody in the stadium, no cowbells were ringing. It was like, ooh, and I fed off of that, right? So players feed off of a lot of emotion. So no fans is going to be a big deal. I think for offenses for the Saints, or for the offense for the Saints, and even offenses for any away team is going to be an advantage, and the big disadvantage will be for the defenses.
And we're on with Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Talk Show on the Landry Football Network here on the Sports Web. Open phone line if you got a question for Mr. Blake, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's go back to Mr. Kima Suvaran. I believe that's how you pronounce it. Undrafted guy, Texas A&M, Oklahoma State cornerback. Seahawks cut him because he's trying to sneak a female into the team hotel. And the excuse is, I'll get back to that in a moment. Let's go out to Johnny Dean. Johnny Dean, the professor, you're on with yours truly, along with Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Talk Show on the Landry Football Network. What's on your mind?
I just gotta tell Blake, man, dude, you're bringing back memories. I haven't heard tune ass since I was at my grandma's in Florida.
Hey, well, you got to get that gumbo, boy. We're gonna have some crawfish and pie, filet gumbo.
Man, I tell you right now, I'm getting kind of hungry listening to that.
I just want to kind of go back and touch on something for my buddy Blake Anthony with the Bucs Report there. You mentioned something about the offensive linemen. You can never have enough of them. Please say that louder for the back row.
I mean, you agree with this because the Saints have been the antithesis of this because they've drafted offensive linemen and defensive linemen, especially offensive linemen every year, which is why when the Saints sustain those losses in free agency, they're able to stick somebody that they drafted and they're able to come in there and be most likely a lot better than who they got rid of.
Well, look, listen. The Saints in the last four drafts have drafted an offensive lineman in the first two rounds of the last four drafts. So you've had Ryan Ramczyk, who some people believe to be the best right tackle in all of football. You go and get McCoy, who was the All-SEC center at Texas A&M, and now you go get Cesar Ruiz. So look, McCoy's not a traditional center. As a center, he's not a traditional center. You will kick him over to guard, and you will put Cesar Ruiz in that center. Every time that I say this, and people and I know this is a Bucs show, when the Saints won the Super Bowl, they had 3 All-Pro offensive linemen, center and both guards. When you have a shorter quarterback, you have to make sure you stalemate up front and don't generate pressure. It's not so much that the defensive tackles get sacks. It's about the pressure and getting people in Drew Brees' face. That has been a problem over the years. Larry Warford, I called this from the very beginning, was a horrible signing. I thought he was not a good fit for the Saints. Andrus Peat has gotten a lot of criticism. I think he's been good at times, just very inconsistent. You build on the offensive line. Now, let me throw this out there, and I know, again, Jameis Winston hits this show a little bit differently than most. Jameis Winston doesn't get pressure, then what happens? Jameis Winston was under a lot of pressure. Now, I went, Peter, before we went on the show, because a lot of talk has been around Saints camp. Now, listen to me. Jameis Winston looking sharp. Okay? Jameis Winston's looking very sharp. And that's not coming from Blake Ruffino. That's coming from inside the Saints organization. You know why? No pressure around him. Go figure. So, and this is the thing with Tom Brady now. I know he gets the ball out very quickly. Mm-hmm. Can you protect him? And that's going to be the biggest key for Tampa this upcoming season. If any team can generate a pass rush, okay? And it's the same for the Saints, and you've seen that. The Rams in the NFC Championship game got like 13 pressures. 13. Yep. Now, 7 of them are from Aaron Donald. Okay, so go figure. But regardless, you can't let that happen. Now that Jameis Winston, now I know it's walkthroughs, but you're still doing these 7-on-7, and he's looking great. That's why the Saints are doing this and why the offensive linemen are so big in this NFC South when you've had leaders in the NFL that's led your team, led the NFL in sacks. I know that's long-winded, but I'm very passionate about offensive line play.
Oh, no, not at all. And I think you have to be. Johnny Dean, I agree with you on that. You're definitely going to have to figure out this offensive line when it comes to the Bucs. The Saints, not so much, and that's why you're able to keep a Drew Brees who's up there in age, and most likely this is going to be his final year, but you don't want it to end early. You don't want him to sustain a big-time hit, and that's what the Saints do. That's what the Bucs have to concentrate on. That's why it was nice to see them draft a Wirfs out of Iowa on that right side. So
the best offensive lineman, in my opinion, by the way, Peter. In this draft, mm-hmm. In my opinion, he was the best offensive lineman, without a question.
Why do you say that? Hold on, Johnny.
I think because when you have good feet and you're athletic, the hands will come, right? So when we as offensive linemen, you don't want to hit with your pads, you want to hit with your hands. He has very good hand placement that's going to get better. So the hardest thing for an offensive lineman is, say, if my right hand and my right side is the most dominant, when you go left, it's very difficult. That was the best thing that he could do. I think he's the best offensive lineman in this draft. I saw LSU eat a Georgia offensive lineman apart. Okay, I'm not going to say that the Giants made a bad pick, but right. I think that he, in my opinion, he was the best. And I'm not saying this because I'm on your show. I could go find the tweet when I said it was the best offensive lineman that came off the board.
Love it. Love it. So there you go, Johnny Dean. I know you're a big-time Tristan Wirfs fan when before the Bucs drafted him, and then, of course, now they drafted him. What else, buddy?
I'm a trenches fan, and I was a defensive player all my life in the lines, but I know what it takes to make offense work. You have to have that offensive line, and you have to have depth. And if you don't have depth, you don't really have a team. You have something that's really fragile, eggshell fragile. Because if one of those guys go down, then what are you doing? And you've heard it, Peter. You know Blake feels that Haig is going to be able to step in there, but Haig can't take people on like Donald Penn and the people around the league that are going to be coming after him.
Well, we've heard. We've heard from Chris Landry, who's a scout in this league, who's been a scout in this league before, who said that Joe Haig is basically just a backup. He's an orange player. That's it. I mean, that's all he is.
Rotation. That's it.
Right.
And he's the best of our rotation. That's what bothers me about that.
Sure. I mean, if he's
given the Saints over here,
right,
inside views, but
well,
one more thing.
Sure.
He was talking about Winston.
Mm-hmm.
How many times has Winston been picked off in practice so far?
From what I've heard, none.
Really? Because
I don't believe it. Sean Payton's going to tell you that he hadn't been picked off. I believe that he has. But let me tell you something about Sean Payton, though. He's not going to come out with a comment about a quarterback unless it's true. Now, the other coaches, yes. Sean Payton, no, not a chance. Sean Payton has come out even 2 years ago and ripped the absolute dog doo-doo out of Drew Brees. Okay, he will come out and rip Jameis Winston. I want to be careful because, you never know with Sean. But listen, if he's going to rip Drew Brees in an open press conference, he would rip Jameis Winston. I think he's going to be okay. And listen, Johnny, let me and Peter, this too. 2 quarterbacks have made, when you talk about 3 straight drops, there's only 2 quarterbacks that have made that have less or more 3 straight drops in the league than Drew Brees and Tom Brady. And it was one Patrick Mahomes last season when he literally took a step and rifled it off. Okay, it was Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, and then Tom Brady. That's why the guards are so big of a deal. And that's why I think that Jameis Winston will succeed in the sense of 1, 2, 3. We have 3 reads right here to the right. Make your read, get out of there. And why I think he's had a lot of success. So I don't want to get so X's and O's, but that's why. I
love X's and O's. So you're talking my language. You're speaking my language here. I think, and if you don't like X's and O's, then what the hell are you doing watching football? You're watching for, I don't know, girls trying to look like football players. I don't know what you're looking for, but we like X's and O's here on the sports web.
Well, and that's why Joe Burrow did so good last year. If you go back and pop that film, now I broke a lot of that down. You can go to RU Series Sports, and I broke a lot of that down. He would look to the right side of the field because, look, if you're going to play zone, okay, somebody's going to be open in that bunch formation. Same exact thing with the Saints. Same exact thing for Jameis Winston. Hey, look, you have to look at a 10-yard radius instead of a 25-yard radius with Bruce Arians. No risk it, no biscuit. That's why he's succeeding.
Absolutely. Good stuff, Johnny Dean. Thanks a lot for the call. Appreciate you, all right?
All right, later, guys.
Open phone line, 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with Mr. Blake Ruffino. Are You Serious? Sports talk show on the Landry Football Network. Let's go out to the webheads, see what these guys have to say. First and foremost, well, I tell you what, let's go out to the phone lines. They want to talk. They want to talk to the webheads, so let's talk to the webheads. From Atlanta, welcome to the Evolution. You're on with yours truly, along with Blake Ruffino. Are You Serious? Sports talk show on the Landry Football Network. Go ahead.
All right, Peter and Blake. Come on now.
That's kind of different, isn't
I know,
it?
it's kind of confusing to say.
Right.
But come on now. Jameis not throwing interceptions or Jameis looking sharp. First of all, they're not even in pads yet.
I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah, and second of all, you're talking about, he'll just look to the side and make a quick read and get rid of the ball. The guy has decision-making issues, not
well, he was talking. Now, wait a minute. Now, let me defend him. He was talking about Ryan Griffin. That's who he was talking about. He wasn't talking about Winston.
He was just talking about Jameis. Take a look to the right. You got 3 reads, or it'd be very quick for him to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, he doesn't make the right decision. He gets too amped up. His head is the problem, not his physical abilities. I believe he physically has all the ability, and you guys are just as impressed as the Bucs were initially.
Sure.
And good for you. But the problem is, what happens when he's actually getting out there on the field trying to read a defense? That's where things fall apart. That's where everything just goes to hell. And by the way,
if you go and look at now, you guys watch the Bucs more than I did. How many times did a pass get tipped up in the air and it was picked off? Seriously, how many?
Well, there was a few, but there were also moments where Blake, he started the game with an interception, and there was no reason why. With the linebacker backing up, he couldn't read So with everything being said about Jameis Winston and his interceptions, and I've been a big-time defender of it, was it his wide receivers running some bad routes? Possibly, but also some bad decision-making to start the game. I can't excuse it. Like it would happen in multiple games. And basically, you can't have that happen when your defense is already struggling to stop people. You're putting him in bad situations where the offense is able to score points. And, of course, Winston with his arm talent and with the offensive weapons, they'd be able to lead him back. But you don't want to get into a hole. So to answer your question, yes, there were some tip passes. Yes, wide receivers ran some bad routes. But a lot of those interceptions were on Jameis Winston. In fact, if you look inside the numbers, 40 interceptions he could have had last year if some of the cornerbacks and linebackers would have caught some of those passes. Just saying.
Do you realize if half of his passes were tipped and then intercepted, it was still a horrible year?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
The year was.
Well, let me not. I guess it came off in a different way than I guess I initially anticipated. I'm not here completely saying that he's an all pro. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying though is that, hey, Ryan Fitzpatrick goes to we know the Ryan Fitzpatrick of old, and now coming in when he was with Tampa, and then he leaves again and goes to Miami. We would say he's a smart quarterback, and he threw a lot of interceptions too now. Okay, so I think that there might be something with this offense where no risk it, no biscuit. You're going to have a high turnover rate. Peter, remind me again, wasn't it the Monday night game against the Steelers? I turned it off. I'm like, oh, that game's over. And then all of a sudden they come back. Look, I was in the Superdome when Ryan Fitzpatrick threw 2 interceptions, and all of a sudden they're beating the Saints. They scored like 40, 50 points.
Well,
I don't know.
That was a different offense. Dirk Cutter was running that offense.
Yeah, that's true.
So Dirk Cutter's running that offense, and Ryan Fitzpatrick has always been like that. He's always been a quarterback that has had flashes of brilliance. The same thing with Jameis Winston. 33 touchdowns, over 5,000 passing yards, but he also has the 30 interceptions, and he's always had a problem with decision-making. So, look, I'm not going to sit here and say he can't be successful with the Saints under the tutelage of a Drew Brees and a Sean Payton. I'm not going to say that, but I almost feel like what Derek Brooks had to say on Fox Sports 1, maybe it's good for Winston to kind of sit back for a year, watch how Brees does it in this offense, get the offense down, and then if he has the opportunity to start next year, which he'll be a free agent, he has the opportunity to either come back to the Saints or go to another team, comes back to this offense and really excels. And I think that's what a lot of Bucs fans are scared of, because you've had quarterbacks in the past. You've had a Steve Young. You've had a Doug Williams. You've had a Vinny Testaverde. You've had a Chris Chandler and a Trent Dilfer go to other places and be successful. And some of those quarterbacks, unfortunately, have won Super Bowls with those teams. So is it the Bucs offense? Is it the Bucs organizational development? It could be all those things, and that's what a lot of Bucs fans are fearing. But when you're saying Jameis Winston is looking good, that's nothing new to Bucs fans. Jameis Winston always looks good in camp, but also he throws a lot of interceptions in camp. So I don't know what to think.
By the way, Doug Williams did not perform poorly with the Buccaneers. Steve Young did not perform poorly with the Buccaneers. I mean, that it's
well, Steve Young was terrible because everything around him was terrible. I mean, that's.
Let me ask this question, and this could be kind of naive of me because it's in a different time frame. Peyton Manning, 28 interceptions, 15, and then 23.
Sure.
I think we're in a society too where Peyton Manning's a first ballot Hall of Famer and it's one of the best quarterbacks to ever live. But when I sit here and look at it analytically now, did they have a little bit more wins? Yes. 28, 15, and 23. Guys, quite frankly, I mean, he has more interceptions than what Jameis Winston did now. Now, what's the difference? The winning is the difference. Winning and going to the playoffs is the difference, and that's the only thing. Now, if I would have told you in 4 years that Jameis Winston had a better completion percentage, more yards and more touchdowns than what Peyton Manning did in his first 4 or 5 years, what would you say then?
I would believe it. I would absolutely believe it. And the thing that I've said about this Bucs organization is, did they do enough? Offensive line, they didn't. Know why? Because they drafted Christian Wirfs. Did they do enough with the running back situation? No. They've improved that in the offseason. So have they given him all the components? I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say they've given him the best opportunities, which kind of goes back to those other quarterbacks leaving this franchise. But what's done is done. They go with Tom Brady, Jameis Winston. You're absolutely right. The stats are there, but a lot of people would say, well, it's a different time too. It's a lot easier for quarterbacks to throw from the pocket because you don't have players that can basically barrel down on them and hit them. You can barely.
That's a good point.
And then on top of it, the pass interference, you don't have the aggressive corners anymore doing that. So wide receivers are able to get open. And look, at the end of the day, when you have a Mike Evans and a Chris Godwin, you're going to throw for a lot of yards. That's not taking away from Jameis Winston. That is your offense. But in the same terms, you have to make better decisions no matter what. And you can't start out games with interceptions. It just drives Bucs fans crazy. And I'll tell you why I have so much
sixes.
Yes, seven pick sixes. It is not a good look. And
you know what's funny here is this. Oh, go ahead, caller. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just saying, it's more pick sixes than Brady's thrown in his entire career.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But has there been a system that's been installed for Brady? Has he had the same system over and over again? Yes, he has. Has Winston had different systems? Yes, he has. Has he always had a running game? No, he has not. He hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2015. We've been through this. The offensive line has been dreadful. The defense has been dreadful. So those components, and when you put it all on a quarterback, and I get it, Patrick Mahomes is not growing on trees. Okay, ask the Chicago Bears fan right there, Travis Faley. Every quarterback that comes into the NFL is not going to be Patrick Mahomes. And in that same breath, every quarterback isn't going to develop as quickly as some of those young quarterbacks. Maybe Winston just couldn't do it in Tampa. He didn't have enough around him, but he also just didn't have enough. He's not going to develop in 5 years. It's going to take him longer where somebody will get those lights turned on, much like Alex Smith when he went to the San Francisco 49ers and he was a first-round pick and had all that pressure and at first had some success and then went down. And then finally, when he hit his stride, Jim Harbaugh came in and got the most out of him. That's what you may have to see, and that's what basically Sean Payton may do for Mr. Jameis Winston. Anything else, Rick?
The only thing I want to say is the problem with Winston was not his physical abilities.
Right.
It was the fact that he was always frenetic in how he played.
Correct.
It was this panicked, out of control, bad decision making. There was nothing consistent. You always had something. He was just always on this edge of that. He was just.
It was a gift, Rick. It was a gift and a curse because you love the youthful exuberance about him. He can make so many extraordinary throws, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, this quarterback is doing some things I've never seen a quarterback do." And then you see him make some throws, and you'd be like, "Oh my God, where did this quarterback get coached from?" I mean, Jimbo Fisher. What were you doing with Jameis Winston and his development? What were you doing, Dirk Cutter and Bruce Arians? It has been a roller coaster ride for Jameis Winston fans here in Tampa. So
and I do hope the best for Winston in
Me
his
too.
future because
Me too.
He's a likable guy. I just feel like he's just a little bit out of control. And like I've said to you, Peter, some people are natural leaders and some people try to act like a leader.
Mhm.
And you just get the feeling that Jameis is putting on that show of being a leader instead of just leading by nature. And Blake, I want to tell you, I'm the guy who made the comment about the offensive line. The girl looking like an offensive lineman. Very attractive offensive line.
You know what? I got to say this right here, Rick. Here you go. Get out of here with that. Come on. That was not an offensive lineman that's walking through that hotel room. And anybody that thinks it was not. And nobody is going to buy the fact that she was an offensive lineman or a part of the team. If she was a part of the team, she may have been a cheerleader. That is more sellable than telling somebody she's a part of the team as a football player. Now, come on. I know these football guys. Yeah, man. Thanks a lot. There you go. Good stuff. All right. So we'll end on that. We'll go out to TJ Pittenger, who you know very well. We'll get him to talk about the Florida State situation. We talked about this Kima Severand. He needs to get a new name. I can't pronounce it. I don't know. I probably chopped it up. your thoughts on the NCAA, Big Ten canceling fall sports, the Pac-12 canceling. Are you surprised by this? And do you think it will lead to an eventual SEC, ACC closing of fall sports, or do you think they just run with it?
I could be very long-winded, and so I'm sorry.
Go for
it. Big Ten and Pac-12, shame on you. Shame on you. You're going to have intramural sports, Peter. I'm not sure if you heard about this, but they're having intramural sports in the Big Ten.
And
you're going to have kids on campus. You're going to do intramural sports, but you can't play a fall football season. Now, the Southland Conference and the conference that I played in, they said, listen, you can't have conference games, but you know what you can do? You can have non-conference games. So if Texas calls you, go get that $1 million. But it's about player safety. Here's what I posed tonight, Peter, on RU Series Sports SEC edition. You could see where the SEC in the NFL draft could have a record number of kids drafted, because ask Chris Landry, ask these scouts, the last film that you put on, and if you haven't been there in a year, it's about recent biases, okay? And so I think that the ACC and the Big 12 and the SEC are going to reign here, and the Big 10 and the Pac-12 are going to suffer. Now, the Big 12, I can't believe I'm saying this, 10 years ago to the date, we thought the Big 12 was going to disseminate and not have a conference. And all of a sudden, they're here saving college football. I don't want to get too passionate because it's not my show, but shame on them for what they're doing. The NCAA, quite frankly, Peter, in my opinion, is a joke. It's a complete joke. So you're going to come in and govern against teams like SMU, Penn State, LSU, Alabama for recruiting violations and for this and for that. Some of them warranted, yes. Some of them not. Now, when they needed you most, you didn't do anything. I can't back them here, and I'm not going to ever back them here because it took them this long to make a statement. Mark Emmert finally made a statement today. I think it's a joke. He said, we're going to cancel fall championships. Like you had a choice.
Right.
You didn't have a choice because everyone else canceled. So you're going to wait for every conference to make a statement, and then you come out with something? It's a joke.
Yeah, I think it's a joke, and never, ever be scared to be passionate here on the Sports Web, because we say 3 things, and we live by this. You got to write them down. You ready? Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense. Go ahead and promote yourself, Mr. Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports Talk Show on the Landry Football Network, please.
Yep, Are You Serious Sports on Facebook. That's at Are You Serious Sports. We do a little bit more local. We're branching out nationally. On Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, we do an SEC edition for all you Southern fans. We've been breaking down the entire SEC. It's not just LSU. I've actually been a little bit more critical of LSU at times. You can follow us on Twitter at AYS Sports. That's at AYS Sports. And always, twitch.tv/Chris Landry Football. That's Chris Landry Football on Twitch. You can follow us there. And so many good shows like Peter Blake and all the other guys, a lot of conference and NFL shows, a lot of scouting breakdowns as well. Peter, you, my man, you're so awesome, man. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be back on. I have a little one that's been running around where I couldn't be back in here. I'm so glad to be back on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Anytime. You're always welcome here on the Sports Web. And I got a job for you if you want it. You know, we're doing a pregame show, a halftime show, a postgame edition of the Sports Web for Bucs versus Saints. How about you be my Saints correspondent and give me the rundown of who the Bucs are facing on September 13th? How about that?
No question. I'll be there.
All right. Sounds good. Blake Ruffino of Are You Serious Sports, a part of the Landry Football Network. Thanks a lot for your time.
Yep. Go follow us, guys. Thanks, Peter. You're so awesome.
Hey, man. Appreciate you. So are you. And that's the kind of people we have here on the Sports Web. I love that guy's enthusiasm. And don't let anybody ever tell me I'm not going to come on here and be passionate. I like that passion. That's what's the difference with the Sports Web. If you want a church show, go watch church. If you go to church. But this show right here is loud, it's proud, and it's definitely about the hardcore football fan. Even if you're not a hardcore football fan, it's about the sports fan. 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. We'll get out to TJ Pittenger in a moment, running a little bit late. Want to get out to these comments really quick, and then we will get to him. When can I call about the Bolts? You can call anytime you want to. We'll definitely talk about it. Hey, she may have been very attractive offensive lineman. Alex Fleming says Blaine Gabbert is recycled trash. I know how you feel about him, but Bruce Arians likes him, and he feels like he is going to be the backup quarterback for this team going forward. So Arians is that poor of a coach, Alex. He wants trash. Johnny Dean, I would love to see how long AB lasted in the same room with Evans and Godwin. Laughed my ass off, especially Evans. Dylan says, hey, guys, what's going on? Blake Ruffino, the Bayou baller. I like that. Man, I ain't heard Kunas since I was at my grandma's in Slidell. Okay, I hope people are listening to Blake Ruffino, says Alex Fleming. Winston was a talented quarterback with the terrible decision-making. Preach. Johnny Dean says the difference is easy. Those 100 points scored against the Bucs off those ill-timed turnovers last year. And Johnny Dean says, I could listen to Blake Ruffino all night. One day, Blake will be going to have to go out and get some gator and rattlesnake while talking football. I think I'll pass on that. A good, you know what the perfect snake is? A dead one. I'm not eating it. Sorry. And good stuff, Blake Ruffino. Let's go out to Mr. TJ Pittenger of the Big Three Roll-Up. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. I'm great. I caught the last 5 or so minutes of Blake there, and I need you to go before Blake because I can't follow that guy up. He's too good. So I'm the one that can't. I'm the one that pushed myself back, so it's my fault. But I can't do this again. Next week I'll be on time. I'll be here because I can't follow. That guy's way too good. His show's great. You're great. He's great. I'm just like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here with these pros? So no, but thanks for having me on, man.
Absolutely. And what you're doing here is giving us that college football insight that we so crave here on the evolution of Sports Talk Television. It's the Sports Web. This situation with the NCAA, as I was talking to Blake about this, it looks like, it doesn't look like, the Big Ten is canceling all fall sports. The Pac-12 is canceling. Do you feel like other conferences will follow suit, namely the SEC and ACC?
Yeah, so I don't think they will. I agree with Blake. Shame on the Big Ten. Shame on the Pac-12. I never had much faith in the Pac-12 getting stuff off the ground this year based on the states they're in and the mandates that those states have set, California, Oregon, Washington, states like that. I never thought that they would have much luck. But shame on the Big Ten. To set a schedule last Thursday and then to come out just a couple of days later and then cancel the season. Like, what changed? What changed overnight?
Right.
I've heard this for a long time. We got guys in the comments talking about, and Peter just mentioned it too, talking about church. If you don't want to be loud, he says his church is loud. I'd rather be, this is a very biblical term. I'd rather be a hypocrite than a coward any day of the week. Right? I would rather support the ACC, SEC, the Big 12, who go out and safely try and make this happen and fall flat on their face and get it completely wrong. But at least they tried. But it's better than being the Big 10, who's an absolute coward and not even going to give it an attempt. That's my thought on it. So, yeah, I think the ACC and the SEC, the Big 12, they try to kick off unless there's some kind of major outbreak or something happens. They will kick off. I'm not so confident the season finishes, but I do think they start playing football in those conferences.
I love it. TJ, double fries, no slaw. There you go, my man. No vegetables for me.
Let me
three roll up. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, let me tell you about that. So I put that on there. We had on the Big Three roll up, we had 3 affiliate podcasts. A Gators one, a Canes one, and a Florida State one. The Florida State one kind of is no more. So we started Double Fries No Slaw as kind of an homage to Guthrie's in Tallahassee. And so we've got a logo and everything. Double Fries No Slaw. It's a Florida State podcast with me, my buddy Richie Barnes, and Freddie Stevenson, who's a fullback, national championship 2013. Played from 2013, 2017, never lost to Florida or Miami. I like to get that shot in there.
Yeah, do it again. Can you do that again for the Florida Gator fans out there?
Yeah. Freddie Stevenson, my co-host on Double Fries No Slaw, never lost to the Gators or Canes. what stinks now is everybody on the roster nobody's beat them. So roles have been reversed. But I put that on there today just so that I can shout it out. I just got off the podcast with them. That's why I had to jump over here. We were talking a lot about this, a lot about the stuff going on at Florida State, a lot about the Big Ten canceling. The ACC voted today, and they're going to stay on the path and stuff like that. So thanks for letting me shout that out a minute. Yeah. That's what I put on. But we have I know you're on the other side of the bay, but we have a Guthrie's now in Tampa, in South Tampa. I'm going tomorrow to get Guthrie's, and I will get the double fries and no slaw. Get the vegetables out. If I'm eating fast food chicken, I'm not getting coleslaw. I'm eating all fries.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, and people are like, in the morning when you get up, eat spinach in your eggs or eat something. And I told this story where I was with this woman and we had a good night and she wanted to make me breakfast in the morning. And she wanted to put vegetables in my eggs. Well, that's a no-no. I am picking up to eat vegetables in my eggs. I'm going to eat eggs, cheese, and bacon in it. That's good.
Yeah.
So everybody gives me trouble about this, and I lost a bet, like always, so I have to eat a vegetable omelet. I'll eat some spinach in it. But I just don't get the infatuation. I don't sleep 6 to 8 hours. Hopefully you sleep 6 to 8 hours to get up and eat vegetables in your eggs. I just don't do it. If I want vegetables, I eat a salad. If I want, lettuce and tomato on my taco, why? I want the beef, cheese, and sour cream. What is the main dish at Guthrie's that everybody should try? Is it the fried chicken?
Yeah, so they're essentially, Zaxby's was born out of Guthrie's, right? So it's the same setup. Probably a less extensive menu, but yeah, get the chicken strips, get an extra sauce. Sometimes they charge you for it, sometimes they don't. If you get lucky, they don't. It's like 50 cents if not. Okay, so just think about this. This is not why you brought me on, but I'm still amazed by it. Coleslaw is worthless. Like what you do with coleslaw, like you take the coleslaw and you throw it in the trash. Like it's just absolutely meaningless. It's where nobody eats the coleslaw.
Right.
But imagine this world, and most places don't do this. Imagine a world where you go to the counter and you say, you know what, the coleslaw is worthless. Can I just get double fries? Most of the time they look at you and say, no way. The coleslaw, we just put the coleslaw in there as a filler. Fries are what we make Guthrie's gives you the double fries. They will give you the double fries. They say, yep, we'll take the coleslaw out. So that's why we name our podcast Double Fries, No Slaw. We don't want slaw. We want double fries because that's the good stuff. Just like you get here on the Sports Web. You only get the good stuff. We throw the coleslaw out, and Peter and the guys they're just fries over here. That's all they are.
And that relationship ended as soon as she said she wanted to put vegetables in my eggs.
Yeah, that was the last night.
That's it. At that point, I feel like coleslaw is about like corn. It's very worthless. Let's talk about this situation with them, canceling it. Chris Landry kind of talked about this last night where he said the reason why a lot of these conferences are doing this is because essentially they don't want to pay the athletes. Do you feel like with everything that's going on with COVID and the liabilities that maybe some of these conferences are dragging their knuckles on this because they don't want to give in to this whole movement of paying athletes in college sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an aspect of that. I think another really major aspect of it is just the liability issues that they run into with, if there's a massive outbreak, players getting sick and suing over it and stuff like that. I mean, I think there's an aspect of it, but I mean, I don't know that the whole paying player. I mean, Chris knows way more than I do, but I don't know how much the paying players stuff really factors into it. It's just the liability and the politics. The SEC. I'm not an ACC guy. I just support an ACC team, so I'll be careful with saying that I'm an ACC guy. But for all intents and purposes, I'm an ACC guy because I want to see a team in the ACC do well. So, but I know the SEC is the best conference in college football, and I'm comfortable saying that. That's not shocking to anybody. And so, if the Big Ten is worried about having to play players, the conference hierarchy is not Pac-12 and Big Ten up at the top. I mean, it's SEC, and so I don't think that paying players is really the issue here, because if it was, the SEC would be bowing out, because they'd have to pay more than anybody. I think it's about liability, and I think it's about the politics of it. I think that, no matter where you lie on the virus, which I believe the virus is very serious, and should be taken seriously, but where you lie on the virus gets politicized different ways. And if you're in the South, it gets politicized one way. And if you're in the North or the Midwest, it gets politicized a different way. And if you're out West in California, it gets politicized a different way. And I think that kind of where the Pac-12 and the Big Ten lie just geographically, it's been politicized a certain way. And that's not the case down here in the South. It hasn't been politicized like that in that direction in Florida, in Georgia, in South Carolina, in North Carolina, in Texas, in Oklahoma, and these states where the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC play. So to me, it's more about the politics of all of it than it is paying players, because the SEC is not going to pay players this year. The ACC is not going to pay players this year. So I don't know if I buy that as much. I believe it really has more to do with the politics of all of it.
Good stuff. All right. So without all that being said, there seems like there's some controversy from the capital of Tallahassee with Florida State. Tamaron Terry, of course, Scary Terry, who we've talked about on this show last week. I want to play football September 12th, 100, but I also want to keep my family safe. I have a 7-month-old kid at home. This follows the report from ESPN's David M. Hale, where he says DJ Matthews deleted a tweet from Wednesday night saying he tested positive for COVID-19, then also tweeted out all the lies. Terry had an emoji up there shaking his head. Then Warren Thompson typed an open letter on Twitter where he said, there have been lies from our leaders that have put us overall well-being in jeopardy, and accused the school of not responding to his concerns. Also, Terry's mother, Cindy Ruiz, we need answers and we want the truth at FSU football and Coach Norvell. As parents and family members, we deserve to know our kids are safe. Weekly testing has not taken place, and many players have tested and yet have been told those results to remain silent. Silent no more. This follows the visit by Ron DeSantis, of course, with Mike Norvell, who's the new coach there, John Thrasher, the president, and David Coburn, and players Keyshawn Helton and Josh Kando on Tuesday, where DeSantis said, this is like a family, the people that you play with, the coaches, the trainers, the administrators, they're looking out for these kids. They want everybody safe, not just with respect to the coronavirus, but all kinds of health issues that came up as in the athletic season. So this is the safest place to be. And we already know, according to Wayne McGahee of the Tallahassee Democrat, at least one Seminole football player has tested positive for COVID-19 during the initial testing of player staff in May as a part of all the testing for voluntary workouts in June. What do you make of this? Because what I see is basically players coming out. You have players that are supporting this staff. I mean, where do you lie on this if Norvell and the administration of Florida State knew about the safety dangers of COVID-19 and some guys testing positive and hiding those results? Should there be some type of action where Norvell would get suspended or even fired at this juncture?
No, I'll start by saying I don't think there's any case of that. I think in everyone's the one thing I'll say, and I have plenty of takes on this, so just cut me off after I'm an old-fashioned deep, and so just cut me off once I've gone too far. But I've got several takes here. First of all, no, I don't think Norvell gets fired. The one thing I will say is that even in the comments that were made, everything was very vague and nothing pointed to him directly. I don't claim to be the guy that has all the inside sources, but just kind of according to my sources, this was not really pointed at the FSU staff. This was pointed more at the administration.
Okay.
So over Norvell's head. That's coming from that's coming from somebody that told me this was going to go down, right? Like that was on a podcast with me 2 days ago, and we talked about this directly. And so and you'll notice in their comments to kind of back that up, no one mentioned Norvell explicitly. No one said our coach and this and that. They mentioned leadership and different things like that. And so people take that as that, but this was really a shot a little higher up than Norvell even. And that's why you see the players immediately come out afterwards in support of Norvell to make sure that people knew that it wasn't something he had done or not done or lied. What I will say is Norvell was blindsided by this. He was at practice when the tweets went off and the things hit social media. He walked off the practice field and was given a quick heads up, I'm sure, by somebody on staff, and then walked into a pre-scheduled media availability Zoom call, which of course he was blasted with the questions of, what the heck's going on with your football program. And he admitted, I had no idea these tweets were sent. I was just on the practice field. These players weren't at practice that sent these tweets. I do not know what has caused them to feel this way. And, I will have to look into it. He said, I met with Warren Thompson last night. I thought everything was good and really just didn't have a lot of answers as to why this was going on. My take on it in total is that Warren Thompson is a kid that has had, I'll almost say, issues with 3 staffs now. He decommitted from Jimbo Fisher at Florida State and then committed to Willie Taggart at Oregon. While Jimbo was still at Florida State, Willie leaves to come to Florida State, decommits from Oregon and commits to Willie again at Florida State, comes to Florida State, has it in with and nearly quits the team last year. And his mom started tweeting and stuff, nearly quit the team under Taggart, said, talking about playing time and different things going in there, not getting his chances, this, that, and the other. They rekindled or, mended that. And I think a lot of Florida State fans saw that and just kind of said, well, we'll blame that on Taggart more than Thompson, because Taggart obviously was a pretty poor failure at Florida State. But now Thompson's getting to it again with the Norvell staff. So he decommitted from Jimbo's staff. He caused ruckus with Taggart's staff, and now he's the one running to social media to complain about things on Norvell's staff. And so you kind of, not that he's not necessarily wrong about anything he's saying, but you kind of look at, man, about an hour ago, I had Antonio Cromartie on the Double Fries No Slaw podcast. I see Blake in the comments. I had Antonio Cromartie on, 11-year NFL vet for the Jets and Chargers and Colts. And he said, man, be a man. Go to the coach in private. Go to the people in private that you need to talk to and get this out. Because what he did, even if he didn't mean to throw Norvell under the bus, even if it has nothing to do with Norvell, that's who everyone assumes. When you're a college football player and you say leadership, people assume it's your head coach. And so he throws Norvell under the bus. You see a million other players come out. Obviously, a little bit of an exaggeration there. You see a million other players come out and give support to Norvell and the staff and say that they feel safe. And some of the other players, Terry and Matthews and stuff, kind of walk back their comments. Thompson has not said anything since his post. Haven't heard from Norvell since the press conference. I think this is much ado about nothing. It's kind of like the Marvin Wilson issue that happened earlier in the year after the George Floyd killing. It kind of stinks that Florida State is kind of at the middle of the news cycle with the most 2 controversial things in the country in 2020. But I think there's much ado about nothing. I think there's some disagreements on how things are being handled. I think Warren Thompson is a little bit of I'll just say this is my take. I don't care who agrees or doesn't. I think Warren Thompson's a little bit of a problem and shouldn't be on the roster anymore, just from that perspective. The guy was struggling to get on the field anyway, and if he's going to cause ruckus and ripples off the field, he probably shouldn't be on the team at all. Transfer and find somewhere else to play. But I don't think that this is as big of a deal as it gets made. And I think by Monday we'll be on to the next controversy. Who's screwing up or who's canceling the season then.
Yeah, I kind of, and we're on with TJ Fincher, the Big Three roll-up of the Landry Football Network. You kind of, is it a red flag for you being a Florida State fan with seeing all this ruckus off the field? You talk about Marvin Wilson. You talk about these other players. Is this the reason why Florida State, maybe it's not necessarily the coaching, maybe it is the recruits. Do you feel like at this point, if you have a season, that they can cope with all this distraction on and off the field? And is this the real reason why Florida State has struggled the last couple of years? Is it not just all coaching? Could it be the players too?
Yeah, I actually just read a tweet from Irish O'Fell of War Chant about this, and so I'm going to pull up his account and I'm going to read it here too. You could not have scripted, Irish said 7 hours ago, you could not have scripted a more challenging offseason for a first-year staff. Two thoughts. Number one, it shouldn't be surprising that there have been issues. How could there not be? This is all so unprecedented. And number two, when they get through to the other side, it could be seriously galvanizing. I think Ira makes a good point. No coach has ever been asked to take over a program like Florida State, a top 20 program all time, and may even go up a little higher than that. You may say Florida State's like a top 15 program all time in college football. Probably not a blue blood, but a new blood, right? You've got your blue bloods of Michigan and Nebraska and Notre Dame. And then Florida State's like right under that. Like Florida, Miami, and Florida State are like right under that. And so right there with Clemson, right there with some of those other teams. So you've never had a coach take over a program like this that was one, in shambles, and two, going into a global pandemic that can't have recruits on campus, isn't going to have a normal season, doesn't get the cupcake warm-up games that most teams would get to get stuff settled, hasn't been able to have a spring. And so no relationships with the players that you would normally be developing. So I think Ira's 100% right. Challenges were expected. And I don't think we thought about them when he was hired because we didn't know we were going into a global pandemic in late November, early December. But now we know it. And looking back on it, it kind of makes sense. This is the most challenging time. This is the most challenging time in our country over how long? I mean, since what? 9/11?
Yeah.
This is the most challenging time in our country in decades, in 2 decades. And so to think that that wouldn't trickle down to the relationships of a bunch of immature, stupid 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. I was talking with the guys on the podcast 30 minutes ago about how, I expect a lot of these kids, because I'm a 30-year-old man with 2 kids and a freaking crock pot and responsibilities. They've got none of this. I mean, they're just emotional young kids, dumb like I was when I was 20 years old. You know, I look back at the Facebook memories and I'm like, I can't believe I posted that 10 years ago. What was I thinking, you know? And so, man, yeah, they're kids, man. They're emotional. Everything's about social media. Everything's about attention. And so, you know, they struggle with that. And so to think that there wouldn't have been problems, I think we were naive to think that. And so that said, I hope Ira's right. I hope it's galvanizing. I hope that it's something that, you know, they come together stronger on the outside of it. You know, that's kind of my thought and my hope for all of it.
All right, open phone line. I know, I believe somebody's trying to call 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, along with TJ Pittenger of the Big Three Roll-Up. So are you surprised at a player like Trevor Lawrence hasn't opted out yet, and he's so strong on wanting to play for Clemson? Because I thought he would be one of the first players, but really right now Lawrence is kind of showing his leadership qualities. And I asked Chris this, and I've asked other people to look at this. I'll tell you what, let's get back to that. Let me go out to the phone lines. Welcome to the evolution of Sports Talk Television, my friend.
How are you doing tonight, Blake?
I'm doing good, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing better. You know, I took a brief hiatus, but you know what? I'm doing better. Time heals all wounds.
Good. Alex Fleming, the flamethrower himself of fantasy and flavors and turf talk. What's on your mind, boss?
I love Blake Ruffino's take. I remember when Blake and I were arguing about a month and a half ago about Seattle and San Francisco. Now, there is a knowledgeable individual about football.
Mm-hmm.
What I find funny is that me being originally from Chicago, Illinois, and having friends from California, and growing up in the Big 12 country, why they are hesitant to put their lives on the line and sign a COVID test to not be able to sue the school that's making billions of dollars off of them, to play college football and entertain America. I just find it ironic that if NFL players are complaining about the system, people say they're bitching and moaning, and that's what you get paid for. Newsflash. College athletes, students, are getting paid. So why in the hell would they be cowards if they decided to choose health over entertainment?
Because I don't think it's the players that are deciding. I think it's the conference chancellors. I think it's the presidents that are deciding. Why would you release the schedule one week and then all of a sudden basically decide to end the season? I don't know. I don't understand that decision at all. If you're not going to play a season, don't release the schedule. And at least the problem is, and we've talked about this the last couple of nights, TJ had it right on the money. There's no organization, and it seems like they don't have a plan. So to his point, he feels like, look, instead of being together on this with the other conferences and trying to come together, they have basically put them in a corner saying, look, we're not going to play. You shouldn't play. Well, wait a minute. If they feel like they can play and they have all the safety protocols, why not? And even teams in their own conference and in Nebraska and most likely in Ohio State, they want to play a season. But now, because of their decision making, they're not going to be able to. So it's not the players. It has nothing to do with the players.
Yeah, I want to 100% clarify that take, because I saw another comment about it. I would never call a kid a coward for not playing. Some of these kids have. Tamar Terry has a 7-month-old. If he wants to sit out and he thinks that's the best thing for him, 100% more power to you. But what you saw on social media on Sunday and Monday with the hashtag We Want to Play movement, and you've got Justin Fields, who is a top 5 pick, saying, I want to go out there and risk COVID and risk injury and risk CTE and risk my ankle and risk my ACL and everything else that these players risk. If he says he wants to play and then a conference, some dude that sits up in a press box wants to cancel the season because of liability and politics, he's an absolute coward. Justin Fields isn't. The players aren't. But the people that stand up in those boxes and are worried about getting sued and worried about their butts, not the players that lay it on. You can't tell me that a sport that is the only thing in the world that causes CTE cares about player safety. They just don't. If they cared about player safety, they'd cancel football tomorrow, because it's the only thing that causes CTE in the world. You look at the kids. I talked to a girl today whose husband was on the 2006 Florida National Championship team. They had 14 players injured with ACL injuries his freshman year. If they cared about player safety, football wouldn't even exist anymore. So it's not about the players being cowards. I don't ever want that to be my take. But the guys that sit up in a press box and do nothing for the sport, they're the cowards for not playing football. So I want to clarify that. Now I sound like Blake Rufino here, getting all hot.
That's all right. So here on the sports web. So there you go, Alex. What else, bud?
Emmert, I believe, is the president or the authoritarian, but there's not a committee.
Right.
And that's why you have the NCAA not on the same page. You got one guy who's inherently pulling the strings, but doesn't have real power. And that's why you have players from UCLA and Arizona State with lawsuits saying that maybe the campuses don't have their best interests in mind. Now, if schools want these players to play, but don't have mandatory testing and are thinking about the players' safety, are we just basically just going to announce that college football is a funnel for money for college schools? Are they teaching something in the schools, or are they trying to recruit so that way they can make their campus prettier off the money they're making off the backs of NCAA players?
Well, look, I think Chris Landry brought this up last night. It was a great point, and you have to go back and watch it. But he said, at the end of the day, it's also about an education. They're getting education. I do somewhat agree that athletes should be paid, but how do you go about this, TJ, if you start to open up this Pandora's box? Does a player get paid more, and does that favor a bigger university? Because these little universities won't be able to pay all their players. They won't be able to. So basically, essentially, if you go through with paying all these athletes a stipend or paying them what they're worth, then basically you may just end all college football. You may just have the big conferences, and that's it.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. With Title IX, it basically says that Justin Fields has to be paid the same thing your bench warmer on the women's lacrosse team is paid, right? Like you with Title IX, there's no feasible way to do that, because you have to pay these players the same. I think letting players profit off of their likeness is a good start, because if you are Justin Fields and you sign an autograph, you can get more for that autograph than, again, that bench warmer that plays on the women's lacrosse team. Not to put down any women's lacrosse players that may be listening. But I don't know a way that colleges could feasibly pay the players because, again, the women's lacrosse team loses money at Ohio State. The only sports that make money are football, basketball makes a little bit, baseball makes a little bit at some schools, and that's it, right? Like, that is it. And so they can't pay. So I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I don't know how you pay players. They absolutely should. They are making billions of dollars on the backs of Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence and Jameis Winston and Johnny Manziel and these guys that play. They are making billions off of these guys. And so they absolutely should be paying them. I've got no idea on how you do it.
I hate to cut you off. I was going to mention Minnesota and hockey, but that's a different story. UCLA sued not only EA Sports but the NCAA because they used the video games, and he won that lawsuit. And from there on out, all of a sudden, you have players with no names or certain schools that have names, but they paid that lawsuit, but they never fixed the issue. Now, all of a sudden, they want to push it back a year to July of 2021. So you're going to get maybe 1.5 good years of free play from these student athletes before they can even seek compensation. And then they never even mentioned any agent or representation for these players to seek compensation for the work, because it is work, the work that they're doing while they're trying to obtain their degree on college campuses. So, I mean, it's almost mafia-like the way the NCAA is just treating these players.
Well, I mean, Chris Landry called it last night. He called him a cartel. That was his words. So that's Chris Landry right there. He's connected to, he knows Mark Emmert and he knows everybody in college football, and he called him a cartel. So,
Alex, I think you're 100% right. I think it is 100% wrong that, and I love college football. I mean, that's what I do, man. Like Blake's in here in the chat talking about NCAA football. I still play that on my Xbox. Like I still play that often. Like I love college football, but as much as I love college football, I will still tell you, it is absolutely dog wrong that they make millions at these colleges off of the backs of players, and those players can't make a dime off of it, and I understand they're preparing themselves for the NFL. They're getting an education. Bull. Like all that is bull, man. It pales in comparison to how much they're making the university. Yeah. And what's tough is what they fall under is exactly what I just said. I don't know a good way to pay them because, again, you got to pay the women's softball team the same thing you pay Justin Fields. And the women's softball team loses money.
Yeah.
The women's lacrosse team loses money. How do you pay them the same thing? How do you pay the walk-on the same thing, even within the football team? Say you didn't have to worry about the other sports. How do you judge what Justin Fields brings to your program as opposed to the third-string long snapper? You're not paying those guys the same thing, are you? So I don't know. How do you figure it out? And so because they can't figure it out, they just don't do it. And that's not a good excuse. There's people way smarter than me that should be able to figure it out because I'm not that smart. So I agree with you. I mean, it's ridiculous that they don't, but they won't. Eventually, the NCAA will just crumble, and we'll get like a developmental league, like the D League in basketball is, and that's what'll happen. We'll do that eventually. I don't think the NCAA ever figures it out. I don't have enough faith in how incompetent they are as an organization to ever figure something like this out.
They couldn't even figure out the playoff system for so many years. So how are they going to figure this out? It's definitely going to be something to watch. Alex, anything else?
Last question. Let's just say, speaking of metaphors, let's just imagine that the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC are able to complete their conference schedule. Let's just imagine that there is a championship game or playoff or whatever the hell.
Mm-hmm.
This all sounds good to me.
How big is that asterisk due to the fact that there's no Big 10 or Pac-12 competition?
Can I answer it? Can I do it, Peter?
Go for it.
The Pac-12 hasn't won a national title since Washington did 1991 or 92. 91, 92, they split with Miami. The Big 10 has won 3 since then. Ohio State has won 2, and Nebraska has won 1. That is in my lifetime. 30 years, we've got 4 out of 30 times. So I don't think there's an asterisk. I think that we know that the South is what wins college football. I'm sorry, one more. USC won in 2003. It was vacated. So I didn't count that one, but no asterisks at all. Them taking themselves out of it is unfortunate. I think we all would have had Clemson and Ohio State as the two most likely teams to make the championship game because they probably both had the easiest roads. I think there are good teams outside of them, Alabama, Auburn, Florida, but they would have all kind of cannibalized each other. And Oklahoma, I'm not sure they're proven. But I don't think there's an asterisk on it. I think that if Alabama runs this table and goes, what are they, 10-0, 11-0, beats Florida or Georgia in the SEC championship and then beats Clemson, there's no asterisk there. Like they would have, that's a clear champion. So I don't think there is one because I think that these are the teams that dominate college football or the conferences that dominate it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have not been relevant for so many years. So I don't know why anybody would say, well, they could have been relevant this year. Why? They haven't been. Does that answer your question?
Kind of. I partially agree. I just believe that Alabama lost a lot of talent. And like you mentioned, the SEC would have probably cannibalized them because Florida's a hell of a lot better this year. And I don't see anyone would have beaten Ohio State in conference, so they definitely would have made the playoffs. So I'm thinking it could be a little bit of an asterisk, but we still haven't even taken into accountability if a player gets sick or worse than sick when these players decide to play. So, I mean, they are taking a chance with their health, livelihoods, and future, entertaining America and not getting paid.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think Ohio State and Clemson were the easy picks to say they would have been probably in they certainly would have been in the playoff. Probably easy to pick them for the championship because they're going to have the easiest road. They're going to be 1 and 2, whereas Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and Florida cannibalize each other. Oklahoma, again, not proven. Nobody in the Pac-12 worries me at all from that perspective. So to take Ohio State out of that, it sucks as a college football fan. I wanted to see Justin Fields I wanted to see Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence go at it again.
Sure.
So yeah, it totally sucks. So I kind of agree with you there that, it stinks to not have Ohio State in it, but I don't know that I have faith in Ohio State winning it anyway. So, if we get Clemson, Bama, part 5, then that's probably what would have ended up happening anyway. So we'll see.
All right. Good stuff, Alex Fleming. Thanks a lot for calling the evolution of sports talk television. All right, boss?
Thank you.
All right. There you go. Good stuff. Open phone line 727-255-0391 and 727-255-0391. What are your thoughts? Let's go to the Bucs here really quick. What are your thoughts first and foremost at Sports Illustrated picking the Bucs to go 8-8? And do you feel like the Bucs will have an advantage against the Saints with no fans that first week?
I think the Bucs have played pretty well in the Dome, over the years with the fans in there. So I don't know if that's too big of an advantage or not. I don't put as much stock into. Maybe I should look at the Vegas odds and stuff, but I don't put as much stock. I know you get 3 points for a home game and stuff, but I don't put as much stock into home and away crowds. I mean, the Bucs weren't a great team and went up to Kansas City and won. The Bucs weren't very good at home the last couple of years, but they seem to play well on the road. I don't know if that was just kind of luck on, Jameis's part or what, but the Bucs seem to play well in the Dome. And, at the end of the day, I feel like the games against the Saints are always whether or not Drew Brees is on. If he's on, it's tough to go toe-to-toe with the Saints. If he's off, I remember the games we've beaten him. He's thrown a couple picks or, he's not been 100% on. So I don't know that the fans or no fans there makes too big of a difference. I mean, we're going to be the Bucs are going to be a 4 to 6 point dog going into that game. And can they overcome that? I mean, Vegas is not wrong often, you think about the Fitzpatrick game where we both scored 1 million points and we still tried to give it away at the end. There was an onside kick situation where they were only down 1 score. But, that's going to be a tough game starting out week 1 without a preseason, without a real offseason for Brady, and the Saints having an established team that can go and pick up kind of where they left off, right? Like the benefit definitely lies with the Saints there, not to be super negative, but the Bucs not having an offseason, that's a tough week 1 game. Your Bucs fans aren't going to want to hear me say this, but I would not be shocked on a loss there. I think we'll be competitive. I think we'll be in it. But with Brady and the weapons and the talent that we have, but I think that's a week 1 loss, and then we kind of lick our wounds and get back at it. No offseason's tough. No preseason's tough for a brand new quarterback. He is the greatest of all time, but I mean, that's really tough. Breeze is top 10 all time. So
yeah,
it's tough.
According to Cam Jordan, he's the second greatest quarterback of all time behind Drew Brees, of course.
Probably according to Blake Ruffino too, if we're being honest.
Ask Blake about that. So 8-8 by Sports Illustrated. Is it because of the offseason? I mean, that's kind of low. 8-8, one game improvement over 7-9 last year for the Bucs.
The way I see the Bucs is I see them as a 10 to 11 win season. And the reason I think that is because the Bucs lost 2 games last year based on kicking, right? Mm-hmm. Lost the
Giants game
and the Falcons game, right? We make a kick in the Falcons game. We don't go to overtime. James doesn't throw the pick and we win that one, right? We lost that game with a kick. So lost 2 games there. So if the kicking improves slightly, we go 9-7 last year with Jameis throwing 30 picks, with there being 6 pick sixes, 7 picks, or whatever the number was. We go 9-7, right? Last year.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we're playing the if game, but the kicking gets a little bit better, and the Bucs just hold on against the Titans. The defense doesn't falter, and we go 10-6 and we're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, I see the Bucs as, we went 7-9 last year. We get 2 games better from kicking. That's 9-7. And then Brady makes us a game or 2 better, right? Brady is much better than Winston from a decision-making perspective, but I don't think he's quite there he's not going to throw 5,000 yards. I don't think he throws 33 touchdowns. So you're going to get a little bit of a lack of production, but that's going to balance out, and I think it's worth a game or 2. So I see the Bucs at 10 or 11 wins if the kicking improves. If kicking costs us 2 more games, then we're going to go 8-8. We're going to go 9-7. That's just, so you're counting on a couple of more. I don't think Brady is 4 wins better than Winston, but I think he's 2 wins better. And then the kicking gets a little bit better, and there's your 4 wins. What's hopeful for the Bucs is that the defense improves a little bit, and there's another win, right? Yep. There's 12 wins, right? So, I'm sure if you haven't already, you'll do a schedule game-by-game breakdown. Here's what we expect here. Here's what we expect there. I've done that. We all do that with our buddies and our friends and stuff. I got a great buddy, Kyle, who I'm going to see this weekend in Orlando. We do that every year. This is a win, this is a loss, this is a win, this is a loss, and we get it totally wrong because the Bucs come out and win week 1 in the Superdome or something like that. But, I don't think Brady is not 4 wins better than Winston. I mean, he's just not. That's just not with 22 guys on the field, that's just not how it works. He might be 2 games better. If the kicking can give us 2 games and the defense can give us 1 to 2, then we're looking at 11, 12 wins. If not, the defense still is terrible in the secondary and not able to cover anybody. The offensive line still sinks. The kicking can't make clutch kicks. Brady might win us 1 more. We go 8-8, 9-7. So I can see it. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping we get up to 10, 11, 12 wins.
I kind of look at the defense the second half of the year, number 1, number 2, especially those last 6 games. They were playing lights out, and I feel like that's going to definitely carry over. So good stuff here from TJ Pittenger, the Big 3 roll-up. Go ahead and promote yourself. Once again, thanks for your time on the Sports Web, but I want you to promote yourself where they can find you at.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I don't have my name up here this time, so don't go follow me. I've got enough. I'm good on that. I get too many hate tweets from Blake Ruffino and everybody else anyway, so I'm good on that. Go follow Double Fries Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere you can find stuff. Double Fries Pod. It's mostly Florida State, so if you're not a Florida State fan, you won't like it. You can follow the Big 3 roll-up. We cover Florida, Florida State, Miami, and then a whole bunch of other shenanigans as well. Follow Landry Football everywhere. Follow Landry Football on Facebook, on Twitch, and Twitter. Blake giving me hell.
I iHeart. I think it's on iHeart Radio.
Oh, it's everywhere. Yeah, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all that stuff. And that's where you can find me. I love this. I love what Peter's doing. Blake's been in the comments all night bugging us. I love what Blake and them are doing. I love what Chris and them are doing. I love guys that are passionate about what we do, man. I love the commenters. I love the callers. We all just want to talk football and want to enjoy our teams. Want to hate on our team sometimes, which is all good too. But man, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you guys do, and I have a ton of fun on here every week with you guys. And so hopefully, you guys will keep having me back.
Absolutely, TJ. Let's go ahead and read some of these comments here from your buddy Blake Ruffino. TJ equals no slaw, extra fries. Laughing about it. TJ, I'm the same way. Memory I had today. Who is this hottie? Alex Fleming, wow, tried to call, was denied. Okay, well, I wanted him to finish his point. We got you on there. Laugh my ass off exactly 1,000%. TJ Rants, there you go. Blake Ruffino, 100% it's about the money. Southland Conference, bring back NCAA football. It's
yes.
one of the games of all time.
Yes, I still play it. Like, I'm going to go play it when we get off of here. Wind down off this old fashioned.
There you go. Game. Blake Ruffino says it's Rudy Poo. Joe Burrow generated $100 million for LSU last year. What's going on, Joshua Cole Allen? None whatsoever. I think that's what he's saying. Johnny Dean says you have to move student athletes out of the normal bounds of the actual school system. First and foremost, that is only way players can get compensated for their pay. They can have their own structure under school rulings without hampering the school's day-to-day, and each sport will draw upon its own merits. Okay, there you go from Johnny Dean, the professor. That's why we call him the professor here. Ohio State got knocked out in playoff years. Blake says, should Justin Fields play because he only started 1 year in college? Boo this man. Laugh my ass off. Blake, just having a good old time here. You damn right. And I don't hate tweet you ball. So there you go. I guess he's talking about your tweets there. He likes the Florida State. I'm a Florida State homer, so we'll keep on having you on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Thanks for your time here, all right?
Thank you, Peter, man. You have a good night, buddy.
All right, you too, buddy. There you go. And good stuff from TJ Pittenger. We will have another guest on here in a couple minutes, from 1010XL radio station in Jacksonville, talking about the Jacksonville Jaguars, the AFC South, and, of course, taking your phone calls. If you have any questions or comments, 727-255-0391. It's 727-255-0391. It's been a fun night. It really has been a fun night. Looking forward to having Rick Ballou on. I believe that's how you pronounce his name. Hopefully it is. But I'm a little bit worried about this Florida State situation. And I feel like, once again, going back to the question that I asked TJ, is it a red flag, the reason why this college program has struggled the last couple of years? Is it because of the recruiting process not getting the right guys for your system? And I feel like that's kind of been shown. And I get it, they're immature kids. Let's go out to the phone lines. Travis of Rocket Sports and Entertainment, my Tampa Bay Lightning insider. Not a good night for the Tampa Bay Lightning and their fans. A 3-1 defeat to the Columbus Blue Jackets, but a great game on Tuesday night. Welcome to the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. What's on your mind, boss?
Wow, what an intro. That was pretty fantastic right there. I hope we can take a breather from all this paying of college athletes, et cetera, and talk some Lightning hockey.
I love it. Let's do it. We got one of our writers of the Jacksonville Jaguars, radio guy, but he's got about 3 minutes. So we got about 3 minutes, and then we'll go to him. But what are your thoughts? I mean, I thought the first game.
Well, at least I'm getting bumped for him and not Rob the Sports God. So
what happened to Rob the Sports God? He used to call the show. He doesn't call anymore.
You didn't have any giveaways, Peter.
That's it.
And no prizes for Rob the Sports God. Why don't I do this? What time are you staying on until tonight, Pete?
I'm staying on until midnight, buddy. Probably about 11:50. Go ahead and have what you want to say about the Tampa Bay Lightning. I want to hear your thoughts on this because, to me, I felt like that Columbus would come out. They would be a little bit flat, but they were definitely up for it. They played great defense, and even though the Lightning had a lot of shots on goal, You can't take it away from the goaltending of Columbus the last 2 years. Capicello has been tremendous these first 2 games. And honestly, he's the main reason why you're into 5 overtimes, because he keeps that team in it. And then on top of it, with the Tampa Bay Lightning, I was surprised by the first game with Hedman playing 58 minutes, because it looked like it was going to be a very bad injury that could cost the Lightning one of the number 1 defensemen in the NHL.
Well, I'll give them all the props in the world for the resiliency that they showed the other night in that 5 overtime game. I mean, come on, it's just 88 shots. The goalie was phenomenal. But
yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about today's game. I'm not sure if you watched the game at all, Pete, but everybody that watched it, there was one key point in this game where everything shifted. And it's very minute, but it was on the first power play that the Lightning had. They were up 1-0 with about 10 minutes to go in the first period. And Tyler Johnson, instead of dropping the pass down or taking the shot on goal, passes the puck to the middle of the ice. Columbus gets the puck, and they clear it out of the zone. And that changed. They were able to kill off that penalty right there, and it changed the whole flow of the rest of the game. And the Lightning really didn't play very well for the second or third period. And the problem with this club, and we've seen it over and over and over again, is the damn turnovers, Pete. It hurt them last year, and now you're seeing Columbus get into that mode of how they played against them last year. Tortorella knows what he's doing, and I'll make the prediction right now. I said it last year. I had some issues. But if the Lightning lose to this Columbus team, John Cooper will no longer be the coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
I hate to say that, but I kind of agree with you. With all the success that he's had with the Tampa Bay Lightning, as crazy as it sounds, at a certain point, you have to feel like that window could be shutting. You got Stamkos, who's getting older. He's been off injured the last 2 years. You've got Kucherov making big-time money. You got Braden Point making big-time money. You have all the talent there, and at a certain point, the finger has to...
Let's not forget about other guys that are making big money.
Right.
That are not producing. Alex Killorn making big money.
Yeah.
Palat making big money. Yanni Gourde for a third liner making big money. And I think Yanni needs to be more on the ice more because he's energetic. He goes to the front of the net. He's scrappy, but he's relegated on the basically on the third line. Cirelli's been one of the better players on the team, but you got to have some of these guys that are making big money to play on the 1 and the 2 forward lines to put the puck in the net. It just has to happen. And all these damn shots from the blue line, Pete, nothing's getting down low. No plays are being made, and this club needs Steven Stamkos on that ice just to provide another scoring chance, because Kucherov, as long as this series goes, Kucherov is going to get upset. He's been getting banged around as it is and double teamed, and he's going to could possibly break just like he did last year where he got suspended for the game in the playoffs. You know how to get under him. You keep body, double team, and get in his face and slow down his ice. And Kucherov will lose his mind. And you saw it last year, and he might be on the verge of doing it again this year.
Is that the main weakness of the Tampa Bay Lightning? If you can basically punch them in the face and defend them and do everything to stop what they do so well, which is skilled, right? Passing it instead of shooting it. But if you stop them from being skilled, is that the main weakness of the Tampa Bay Lightning and why they have fallen by the wayside to some of these more physical teams in the Chicago Blackhawks and the Washington Capitals, a Pittsburgh Penguins 1 year, and then also now a Columbus Blue Jackets?
Well, I think you're different teams there, Pete, considerably. You got a Washington team that just has skill up and down all 3-4 lines, with Ovechkin and Backstrom and TJ Oshie with that club.
Right.
And then you got Patrick Kane, obviously, and Jonathan Toews and Crosby. So you're looking at those 3 teams are set up totally different than this Columbus Blue Jackets team. This Columbus team is built from the back out, obviously, with the goalie and the defenseman coming out. And you know how we used to always say, the curse of the Posey when it came to the Rays and the catcher. Well, it's coming. It's now curse of the Seth Jones and the Columbus Blue Jackets, because you remember it. We used to talk about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Jones was there right when they took Drouin. If they take Jones It's a whole different hockey team right now because Seth Jones is a top 3 defenseman in the league, just like Victor Hedman. You could have paired Seth Jones and Victor Hedman for the next 10 years as the best back line in hockey, and we missed and we got through. And don't get me wrong, they were lucky they were able to make that trade with Montreal and get Sergachev, but Sergachev is definitely no Seth Jones.
And we're on with Travis Freely of Rocket Sports and Entertainment, our Tampa Bay Lightning insider on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about as the Lightning fall to the Columbus Blue Jackets 3-1 today, which the series is now tied 1-1. What's going to turn it around for the Tampa Bay Lightning? You hear about, these trades that they made with the Coleman and the other guy that escapes me at this point. With their toughness, they're going to be tougher. But yet, once again, we're still talking about them getting pushed around. What's going to turn it around?
I don't think they really got pushed around all that much, Pete. I think they're taking away the passing zones.
Okay.
Through the ice passes, just slowing down with their speed, because obviously the Lightning like to rush through the zone.
Sure.
They're not getting the blue line well, and they're turning the puck over in the neutral ice area. So that's an issue. I do think Maroon and Coleman's been better as far as taking the body, but Coleman's had some chances to put the puck in the net.
Sure.
Killorn had a big chance to put the puck in the net. 2 breakaways, earlier in the week that they didn't score on. So there's some things that are out there for them to take advantage of. They're just not getting the puck in the net. I thought they were going to win this game today, especially after the first 10 minutes. And I think if they go up 2-0, on that power play where Johnson does that errant pass, I do believe they win the game. But, they killed that. And next thing you know, Columbus turned it on, and Torts does what he does. He goes out and he beats better teams.
Yeah, and there's
I would love to see if this does come to fruition and John Cooper is no longer the coach of the Tampa Bay Lightning, which would be a darn shame because injuries have cost his coaching career. I think we'd probably have a Stanley Cup if it wasn't for some considerable injuries, specifically around number 91. Not having Stamkos over the last few seasons, man, it's been pretty tough. But I would love to see John Tortorella back behind the bench for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think he'd get them to the next level. We're way behind on not getting a cup at this point.
Do you feel like if they do change a coach that they also would maybe trade a Stamkos because he has been injured? I get it. He's their captain. He's making lots of money, but is there a certain point where you say, you know what, I'm not sure, as great as he is when he's healthy, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. So in order for this team to get essentially better, you trade a Stamkos or somebody like that. You talked about a Killorn who's making a lot of money, not doing much, Yanni Gord. I mean, to me, do you have to, and I'm not saying they're going to lose the series, but we know that if you get down to this team and you're basically on the perimeter and they're cutting off your passing lanes, you're not able to get around the net, and the Lightning are not good with doing that. If they fall in this series, do you feel like one of these superstars could be possibly traded also?
I'm not sure if you can actually trade Stamkos' contract. It's on an accelerator, so I do believe next season, I think it might be around $12 million. I'll have to take a look, but
wow.
Killorn might be untradeable with that deal. I'll have to take a look, but the next time, as this series goes down,
sure,
we'll keep an eye on it. I'll take a look at the salary cap and where all that is. But
absolutely.
I still believe you have to re-sign Braden Point because he is a legitimate goal scorer in the NHL. And granted, this team is loaded with goal scorers, but man, Braden Point knows how to hit that top shelf. And we've talked about that in the past. The guy is a true goal scorer, can hit the net at any location on the ice.
Yeah, and I feel like they're going to lose Tyler Johnson, who always shows up in the postseason, maybe not so much in the regular season, to a Seattle Kraken in the expansion draft. That would be smart on their part. But we all know the Tampa Bay Lightning and their farm system, they've got the kids they can bring up. The thing that I don't understand is when you get to that playoff scenario, why does this team, it seems like they're hot and cold. They don't have any consistency with scoring. They had plenty of scoring chances. Is it just luck of the puck?
Well, at times, you saw it in Game 7 versus Washington when the puck jumped over Yanni Gord's stick, and Game 7 in the Eastern Conference Finals against Washington. If that puck goes in the net, they're looking at a potential win for the Lightning. Even though they did lose 5-2 in that game, it was close early on, and a couple bounces go our way. That game shifts, and we could have been playing for the Stanley Cup again. Let's not think of this team as, granted, last year was a complete disaster because
sure,
and we were anticipating going to a cup and walking through Columbus because they absolutely killed them throughout the regular season. I think they scored 12 goals or 16 goals to Columbus's 3 in the games they beat them. So we were looking at that series as a walkthrough. The Lightning had tied for the second most points ever of any team in the National Hockey League. So we had a lot of expectations. But if you look at the years before, Pete, going to Game 7 Eastern Conference Finals, Game 7 against Boston Eastern Conference Finals, going to the Stanley Cup and losing in 6 to a Hawks team that had Hall of Famers up and down the blue line and on offense. They had 4 Hall of Famers on the ice in that series, that Stanley Cup against the Blackhawks. So, it's not like we're going against crummy teams. And then you look at other teams that we've beat that we talked about earlier with Pittsburgh, with, arguably the greatest player of our generation and not my generation, but maybe the younger generation and Sidney Crosby. I mean, obviously Gretzky is the greatest player of all time. And
sure.
More my generation than yours.
No, absolutely. I agree with Wayne Gretzky being the greatest of all time, around with Travis Faley. What kind of adjustments do you think Cooper would make? Because he's not necessarily known for doing that, but if you're John Cooper, what type of adjustments would you make for the Tampa Bay Lightning to be successful in Game 3?
I think you just got to keep they got to get the puck more down low, Pete. They can't just keep taking these shots from up top with Victor and Sergachev and with the defensemen. And granted, you do need to catch a couple bounces, but man, just keep crashing the net. And sometimes goalies like last year with Bobrovsky stole the series for Columbus, and they got in their faces. But I think this year's a little bit different because, like I was talking about earlier with Maroon and Cirelli and some of the guys, the hits have been pretty even. The Lightning were dominant early in the game, in Game 1 with their hits, but I think today was a little bit more even. But once again, if they have problems the Lightning have problems in the face-off circle, which they have throughout the season, especially with Stamkos not on the ice, then that leads to more defensive zone time, which leads to more shots on goal and quality chances and goals go in. So and I'm waiting once again for Vasilevsky always has a bummer game.
Sure.
I'm hoping this was maybe his bummer game, but if you keep pelting them with shots, he's going to let shots in just like any goalie.
Yeah, no, I agree. Absolutely. Good stuff, Travis Faley. So Game 3 coming up, is that Saturday?
Yeah, it's Saturday at 8:00, which I actually like too, Pete, because you're asking, what I thought might help this club, and I think a little bit more rest, maybe some film, maybe Cooper making some adjustments, but I've never really seen John Cooper to make a lot of great adjustments. You might see some line changes on Saturday night to try to get a little bit more offense, and hopefully with a little bit more rest and recovery, maybe you might see 91 out on the ice on Saturday night, because I think Saturday night's a must-win for this club.
Yeah, they got to win. You can't afford to go down 2-1. Good stuff, Travis Faley of Rocket Sports and Entertainment. Go ahead and promote yourself, being our Tampa Bay Lightning insider and, of course, around the NFL correspondent. By the way, we are 27 days away from the start of the National Football League. Go ahead and promote yourself here on the Sports Web.
It's pretty fantastic, Pete. Well, it's Travis at Rocket Sports and Entertainment. You can catch me on Twitter, on Instagram at Travis, RSEN. Very, very, very simple. Check out our stuff on rocketsports-ent.com. And, Pete, it's going to be, I tell you, week 1 is falling correctly into place for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going to New Orleans. Granted, it's a new system for Brady. He's got to make some adjustments, but with those weapons, and you guys keep bringing up Antonio Brown and just making me sick.
I am never bringing him up again. I mean, it's just
ridiculous.
It really is.
It's almost we're going back to that same conversation, and Antonio Brown and paying college players. It's almost the same conversation. I'm just throwing a jab out there. Bam!
Bam! Hot takes.
But, no, Pete, and I'll let you go because I know you got a guest coming on. But,
yes.
Man, I think you guys could go into, or the Buccaneers could go into the Dome and take Game 1, where you almost put that down as a loss. It'll be mano a mano, coach versus coach, player versus player, Hall of Famer versus Hall of Famer. I don't know about you, but I'm just tingling just thinking about that first week matchup in the Dome.
Well, I'll tell you right now, your tingling is getting me excited about.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I think there's a lot of people out there that are tingling and getting excited about week 1, but I agree with you. I think there's a lot of Bucs fans looking forward to this matchup. And if you had to write a script, of course, it's Breeze versus Brady, 425 game. but with no fans, to me, that advantage lies with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Good stuff, Travis Faley of Rocket Sports and Entertainment. Thanks a lot for coming on The Evolution, all right?
You're welcome, and we're never talking about dual tingling.
No, we're never talking about that ever again. Let's just
Hey, great show tonight, Pete. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Thanks a lot. Good stuff. All right, so our guest is going to come on. We're going to go ahead and get him on phone really quick. Jacksonville Jaguars. Let's see if we can reach him. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his name right here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. We got a couple minutes.
Hello.
Hi, welcome to the Sports Web. Is this Rick Ballou?
Yeah.
All right. Yes, of course. This is our guest here, 1010 XL Radio, and also Jacksonville Jaguars radio personality.
Yeah, sideline reporter, radio host, sure.
Absolutely. Great. Great to have you here on the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Let's talk about the Jacksonville Jaguars. The last 2 years, 11-21. It's kind of turned around. I mean, it's kind of turned backwards. I mean, here's a team that was in the AFC Championship. They were looking to beat the Patriots, surprise the Steelers, and then they have all these losses to Calais Campbell and now Jalen Ramsey. You still have talent on this team. Do you feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars can be somewhat competitive? Because there's a lot of publications out there and talking heads that feel like this team could be one of the worst in the NFL. What do you say?
Well, I think they're in a bit of a rebuild. You mentioned two Pro Bowlers who are no longer here on the defensive side. And you look at that 2017 AFC Championship defense, which was one of the top in all the NFL, and they're virtually all gone. I mean, Posluszny's gone, Telvin Smith is gone, Marcel Darius is gone, Barry Church, Gibson, Boye, Jalen, Campbell, Dante Fowler. Now we don't know what's going on with Unique Ngakoue. So it's just been a massive turnover, but, they drafted well, 2 first-round draft picks this year, 12 picks overall. They believe in Gardner Minshew, and, to be competitive this year in a very difficult division is probably asking a lot out of this team. But, I believe that they think they're headed in the right direction. They got to solidify that offensive line and obviously try to figure out if Gardner Minshew really is their quarterback moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Minshew, he came on strong after Nick Foles and that disappointment. 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, over 3,000 yards of passing. And now he's going to be the guy. Of course, you got Mike Glennon, who a lot of Tampa Bay fans are familiar with being a backup. So in your mind, do you feel like he's the guy that can, take this offense? Because you still have some weapons here. Rick, you still got Leonard Fournette, who had one of his best, had his best year of his career. He was able to stay healthy, very productive running back. You have DJ Shark. I mean, they have some weapons here. It's not like the cupboard is bare.
No, it's not. And, Leonard Fournette's in a contract year, so, he really wants to play well. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, which obviously you're allowed to do on first-round draft picks. That's what they need to figure out. After the Jalen Ramsey trade, they still have 2 future first-round draft picks. You hear the whispers that they're there for Trevor Lawrence or they're there for Justin Fields. If it doesn't work out, there's a lot of people around here who believe it is going to work out for Gardner Minshew. I mean, he was thrown into the fire last year as a 6th-round draft pick and a rookie and really performed well. And he did so in a very dormant offense. John DeFilippo had that offense running through Leonard Fournette. Filippo had a relationship with Nick Foles when they were together in Philadelphia. And when he went down after 11 plays, all of a sudden it became Minshew. So it wasn't really an offense that allowed him to showcase all of his abilities. Now you bring in Jay Gruden. Gruden, with those West Coast principles, likes to get the football in playmakers' hands, likes to throw the ball to the back out of the backfield, utilize the tight end, take, Laviska Shenault, who was selected in the 2nd round, or
another guy,
Westbrook, who returns, get them using the middle of the field in the slot. So there's a lot of good things that you hope this football team is going to be able to do, but obviously they were set back because of the pandemic. They didn't get a chance to get out on the grass during the off season. And, I was out there today. I was out there yesterday. I'll go out there tomorrow morning. Pads don't go on until next Monday. So we really don't have much of an indication yet. But, I think there is a breath of fresh air around here and a feeling that Minshew is the guy, and if so, that will really take care of a lot of problems. They can use those 2 first-round draft picks to, address other needs on the football team.
How do they feel about Clavon Chason and of course the local kid CJ Henderson out of Florida?
Well, Chasen, unfortunately, yesterday went down with a hamstring, so he hasn't been able to work out the last couple of days. They said it's a minor situation, so they just want to bring him along slowly. I'm hoping they'll start him at the strong side linebacker position in the base defense because you have, Josh Allen on one side and Yannick Ngakoue, who I don't think can leave $18 million on the table. He's only made $4 million in his career.
Unbelievable.
You can't say goodbye to that type of money. So I think he'll report here, in a month before that opening game against Indianapolis. CJ Henderson is the exact opposite of Jalen Ramsey. He allows all his talking to be done on the field. He's almost unassuming, doesn't say an awful lot, which in a way is refreshing because, Jalen Ramsey was such a motor mouth. He was fun to watch, and he was certainly an incredible talent, but there were times where he rubbed everyone the wrong way. So we, are dealing now with the exact opposite here with Henderson. And so far, he really looks the part, an opportunity to be a real good shutdown corner in the NFL.
And we're on with Rick Ballou of 1010 XL, the radio sideline reporter for the Jacksonville Jaguars, on the evolution of sports talk television. It's the Sports Web. I'm your host, Peter Blake, giving you something to think about. Going back to Jay Gruden, because he's the new offensive coordinator. First and foremost, could Doug Marrone be on the hot seat where you could see a case where if he's not successful, that Gruden could take this job? And are you okay with Gruden taking the job with hearing some of the recent allegations from the Washington football situation?
Yeah, I really don't know Jay Gruden. I've talked with him a few times virtually, so it's been kind of a disappointment that I haven't had an opportunity to really, get with him and spend some time. Obviously, I'm extremely familiar with Doug Marrone. He's an outstanding human being. He took over after it didn't work for Gus Bradley, and then Tom Coughlin came back, and he had the immediate success where they went straight to the AFC Championship game. But, they made some mistakes. They never should have picked Leonard Fournette 4th overall. They never should have given that amount of money to Blake Bortles. They never should have given that amount of money to Nick Foles. So then they have a lot of dead money that they're trying to recoup. And, Doug Marrone has had to deal with a lot of injuries. I think Doug Marrone is a good coach. I think the situation that you mentioned, there's a chance that could happen if this team flatlines, if it becomes stale, and you just need to make a change for the sake of making a change. Best case scenario is that Marrone is around and that Minshew can play and that some of these problems are fixable, because I think he is a good coach. But yeah, there's no question Jay Gruden's going to work as hard as he possibly can. We saw what he did in Cincinnati, and yeah, there were problems in DC, but like Doug Marrone when he came here after what happened, obviously in Buffalo and Syracuse prior to that, Doug Marrone wanted another opportunity to be a head coach. So Ben McAdoo, the quarterback coach, Jay Gruden, the offensive coordinator. Whenever you hire guys like that, they're going to work extra hard so they get that opportunity again to sometime be a head coach.
Why didn't it work out with the Tom Coughlin? Because it seemed like it was a slam dunk move by the Jaguars. I mean, here's a no nonsense type of administrator. He's always been, pretty good in the front office. A guy that, your first coach worked out for the Giants. Why didn't it work out with the Jaguars, in your opinion?
Well, the game has changed, and the people in the game have changed. And I was here when it came over from Tallahassee in 1996 when the franchise got here. It started in 95. So I've been covering this football team since its inception.
Excellent.
And, Coughlin was such a taskmaster and a drill sergeant type of man. And, we'd heard that he had lightened up a little bit when he met with Michael Strahan and some folks in New York. But he came back here, and this team really needed a discipline change and an identity change, and it worked. It worked as soon as he got here. But when they started losing, there started to be quite a few stories. There were the situation where he called out a couple of players for missing voluntary OTAs, and the National Football League Players Association got on him and wrote a letter to the entire league that you shouldn't consider Jacksonville as a free agent because of this. So he was shown the door. Today's young athlete, let's face it, it's different. Old school no longer really applies in football outside of, let's say, possibly Bill Belichick, but obviously Belichick has been a winner. So I just think that with Coughlin, breaking, he gets everyone to do things the way that they are supposed to be done. All the rules, all the laws, yet he himself was actually kind of breaking a few within the National Football League Players Association, when it came to asking guys to come in here who were injured to see the doctors during the off season, where they're in other parts of the country and what have you. So, there was just a lot of different stories, and someone had to go. And when the NFLPA came out with that letter, the time was up for Tom Coughlin.
Yeah, and I wonder if the time is up for Leonard Fournette, even though he's so productive. I mean, there's some controversy. He wanted Cam Newton. Now he's kind of backstepping and saying, I'm a Gardner Minshew guy. I just want to win. Do you feel like, in your opinion, because you covered this team for so long, that he could be the next player out of there?
It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Leonard Fournette. You look at all these huge contracts that running backs get, and they never really seem to live up to them. I mean, just look at Todd Gurley.
It's so true. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at Dave Johnson. I mean, maybe we'll work this way with Zeke, but we shall see. I just don't think that a running back is worth that amount of money. So, there was a lot of trade rumors about Leonard Fournette before the draft this year. 2 years ago, there was that awful situation in the final game of the year where, he was sitting on the bench with TJ Yeldon, and even though he was inactive, he was just sitting there and he was pouting. And then there was a ton of talk in town that, he was going to be moved. I think this is it for Leonard Fournette. Best case scenario, he has another year where it's close to 1,700 yards like he had a season ago. I just don't think Jacksonville will give him the going rate. So he's going to have to go out and try to get it on the open market. The other side would be, this man is yet to prove that he can play an entire season without an injury, both at LSU and here in Jacksonville. So, there is some talk there about how durable is he. And obviously this is a young man's game. So if he doesn't play well this year, he won't be back as well. And he's not going to be able to command the type of buck that he wants in the open market. Personally, I love Fournette. I mean, I think he's a jokester. I think he's a real good guy.
Sure.
I think he's misinterpreted quite a bit throughout the league. But, I'll be shocked if he's here again in 2021.
That's a shame because he's a talent. But like he said, he definitely has some baggage, and it comes down to the injury situation. I hate to get you off here, but I got to run. But we got to definitely have you back here on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. Go ahead and promote yourself, my friend.
Yeah, my show every night, 6 to 8 on the home of the Jags. That's 1010 on the AM, 92.5 on the FM. And as well, I will be doing, I believe, I haven't heard yet, Jaguars sideline. I mean, everything's changed in that world. We're doing games from home and not traveling on the team, playing anymore and doing things.
Crazy.
So,
Absolutely crazy.
I'll wait to hear what's going to happen with that. I hope we're back out there, but, I understand that there's more important things in the world than a sideline reporter. But it's been a great run. I've had a blast, and hopefully I'll be able to get out there and do it again this year.
Well, from everything I hear, all the knowledge you have covering this team for 20 years, if they don't, I don't know who else they have in door number 2, but door number 2 stinks to me. Rick, thanks a lot for coming on the Evolution of Sports Talk Television. All right, don't be a stranger.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. Good stuff. I know we had to rush him off. Wanted to talk about the AFC South. We will get him back on to talk about the AFC South. But that's your show. That's your 3-hour extravaganza. It's the Sports Web. Join the 65,000 following we have here on Facebook, of course, live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and the Chris Landry Twitch channel, Landry Football Network. Thanks to all the guests tonight. Mr. Ricky Reynolds, former Bucs corner, Pat's Corner sports analyst. Of course, we had Blake Ruffino on. We had TJ Pittenger on. And, of course, all the great phone calls from you webheads. Tomorrow night, we will be on with Dennis Phillips, meteorologist of Channel 28 here locally in Tampa. So early on this Thursday morning, do me a favor. And, of course, thanks to Travis Faley of Rocket Sports and Entertainment with that great call with his hot takes. Bring your passion. Bring your excitement. Just don't bring any nonsense. I'm your host, Peter Blake. Have a great night. You're now in the Sports Web, a sports talk show for the hardcore fan. Bring your passion, bring your excitement, just don't bring any nonsense.